Hello, I'm Bob Ross, and I'd like to welcome you to the 23rd Joy of Painting series. First of all, let me thank you for inviting me back for another series of painting shows. And if this is your first time with us, let me extend a personal invitation for you to drag out your brushes and a few paints and paint along with us each show, and I'll teach you how to put some of nature's masterpieces on canvas. I tell you what, let's start out today and have them run all the colors across the screen that you need to paint along with us. While they're doing that, come on up here and let me show you what I've got started already. I have my standard old pre-stretched, double-primed canvas up here, and today I've covered it with a thin, even coat of liquid clear and liquid white mixed together because I want sort of a semi-transparent sky in this one. So I've put a little clear in there just so that will happen. So I tell you what, let's just start out today and do a beautiful little, maybe we'll do a winter scene today, and let's see what happens. So let's start, we'll use a little 2-inch brush. We'll go right into a very small amount of the phthalo blue. Very small amount. Don't need much. Just pull a little bit out and then tap the bristles into the color. See, that assures a nice even distribution of color all the way through the bristles. And that's exactly what we're looking for. So let's go up here. Maybe we'll have a nice light area right up here in the sky, and let's see what happens. Let's just take this and go right up in here with a little bit of the phthalo blue. And we'll just do something sort of like that. Sort of like that. We'll just do a very simple little painting today that I think you'll find very effective and a great deal of fun to do. There, maybe something like that. That's all we need. And I have it slightly off center. I don't want it directly in the center of the canvas. Slightly off center. But as you can see, the paint continually mixes with the liquid white and liquid clear that we have on the canvas, and automatically we get this beautiful blending effect. If we were doing this on a dry canvas, we'd be in Agony City already. But this makes it work. It's a lazy man's way of painting. Okay, now then, without cleaning the brush, I'm going to go right into a small amount, and very small amount because it's strong, of the Prussian blue. I want a little darker blue this time. I'm going from the phthalo right into the Prussian. So we have a graduation of color into darker blues. Then we can go right up in here. And once again, we'll just add a little bit of that blue right around here, like so, and just let it blend outward. We want this to be the lightest area and get progressively darker as we work outward. Okay, add a little bit more of the Prussian blue, and we'll go to the other side over here and do exactly the same thing. Something about like so. There we are. But once again, this is mixing with the liquid white and the liquid clear that's on the canvas, and this beautiful blending effect will happen automatically. Now then, I want it to get even darker as it works outward. So I'll take Prussian blue and I'll mix that with a small amount of midnight black. So we have blue and black, or black and blue, whatever your preference. There we go. Then back up to the canvas. See, but see how much darker that is though, because we put that little bit of black in there. And we'll just finish filling up the sky. Just like that. It doesn't take long when you're using a big old 2-inch brush. Doesn't take very long. Okay, add a little bit more of the color, the blue and the black. Then we'll go to the other side and we'll fill it up. Just like so. Okay. Now then, now comes the fun part. Let me wash the old brush. And if you've painted with me before, you know this is the most exciting part of this whole technique, because this is where I get even with everybody here in the studio. We shake off the excess and just beat the devil out of it. And that's where you take out all your frustrations and hostilities, and that's the fun part of it. Now then, with a good clean dry brush, we can just begin blending this. I just want to blend it so you can't tell where one color stops and the next color starts. Just blend it till it's very, very soft. There we go. Now beat the brush just to take off the excess paint that you've picked up off the canvas. It's easier than going through the whole cleaning procedure. And it'll clean your brush right off. All right. Or you can just wipe it down in here, because if we have a little color down in here, I think I'll have a little snow down here, and that'll just end up being shadows in the snow. We're not really worried about it, because you know, we don't make mistakes. We just have happy accidents. You learn to work with anything that happens in this technique. We don't use any patterns. We don't do any drawing. We just sort of let it happen. Let it happen. And very quickly, you learn to create on canvas. Okay, let me wash the old brush again. I just like to wash the brush. Now then, I'm going to go right into some titanium white with the old 2-inch brush here. And just load a little color right on the brush here. And let's go right up in here. I want to make this very bright. Right here. If this is going to be our light area, let's start right in here. Putting in some of that titanium white and let it blend outward. Let it blend outward. It'll mix with all those beautiful blues and black colors that we have in there. Start in the light area and then work outward. Outward, outward, outward. Something like so. I'm going to beat the brush. Once again, just take off the excess paint and blend out this direction. About like that. Now then, sometimes, let me wash the old brush again. I'll show you something that's really fun. Sometimes it's nice to load a little white, a little bit of the titanium white. Then I'll reach right over here, be right back. Get at least, let me say it again, at least little touch of cadmium yellow. Just want to sparkle this, maybe just a touch more. There, that's beautiful. Just want to put a little bit of yellow right up in here. Now, don't put too much yellow because the yellow against the blue will turn green. And in this particular painting, we're not looking for a bright green sky. I just want a little yellow flavor right up in here. There. And we, once again, will blend that outward. Now you can do this as many times as you desire to create a desired lightness. You can go over it and over it and over it. But I would recommend that each time you clean and dry the brush so you don't drag the dark color back into this beautiful light center here. Okay, just knock off that excess paint once again, and we'll blend out in the other direction. There. That easy. That easy. That's all there is to it. And then very lightly, 2 hairs and some air. Just very gently go right across it. And we have a very nice little light area in here. And that'll be our light source in this particular painting. Okay. There we go. Get the old brush good and clean. Now then, let's have some more fun. Let's take a little white, a little bit of the black, a little bit of the Prussian blue. We just mix this color right on the brush. I'm looking for a blue-gray color, something about like so. And I'm going to tap the brush. So I'm sort of pushing forward like that and get a little bit of color right out here on the end of the bristles. Okay, let's go up here. Now maybe back in here there's some beautiful little foot eels that live in here. And our world, maybe, yep, you're right. They live right along in here. And by just using the corner of the brush and tapping, we can put the indication of all kind of little things back in here. We just sort of let them blend right on out into, they just sort of fade away into nothing. Very soft, very gentle, quiet. Just beautiful little things that live back here, right under the sun. There we go. Now then, very lightly, lift it up. Little tiny short strokes. Tiny little short strokes. Just lifting upward, 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 like that. It'll give the indication of little trees that live way back in the distance, far, far away. Now then, let me grab another brush. I have several of each going. I'm going to take a little tiny bit of white. I want to create the illusion of a nice misty area right in here. So a little white, titanium white, and we'll just tap a little. Just tap a little. So we have a nice soft area in there. Then I'll take the same color, just black with a little Prussian blue in it, load it back on that brush, just like we did before. And maybe right in here, yep, maybe there's another little doer that lives right in there. See? But that little misty area in between is what separates your layers. So all it takes is a small misty area. And as you know, as things get closer to you in a landscape, they should get darker and darker in value. There. Lift upward once again. I tell you what, let me show you. I get carried away sometime. Let's take a little more of that black, a little more of the Prussian blue, a little touch of white. Make that same color. I'm just putting it on the fan brush. As you paint like this, you begin seeing things. I just see a wonderful place here. Maybe there's some bigger trees. Yep, right there. Just tap with a fan brush and pull downward. Give it a little downward pull. And we'll make the indication of a lot of little trees that live right up here on this hill. That easy. That easy. Just tap them though. That's all it takes. That's all it takes. Maybe they just sort of blend out over here into nothing. We don't know where it goes. Don't know that we care. There. Back to my old 2-inch brush that had that color on it. And we just sort of bring that down so it all comes together. Very soft. There we are. But see how easy that is? Don't be afraid of this brush because it's large. It will do wonderful, wonderful things for you. All you need is a little bit of practice, an idea in your mind, and off you go. It's really all it takes. There are no secrets here that we don't give you. You really can do this. Every day I get letters from people from all over the country that say, you told me that I could do this, and I tried it, and you're right, I can do it. I really can do this. All right, now then, time to start making some big decisions here. Let me wash the old brush again. I just like to wash the brush. There. Now then, maybe back in here we're beginning to have a little snow. We said we was going to have a winter scene, so I'll take white, just titanium white, but maybe we'll put the least little touch of that cad yellow into it. Since we had a little of that in the sky, maybe a little of that would be reflecting into the snow back here. But see, I just loaded the brush by pulling it through the paint. So there's a little paint on both sides. Now let's go up here. Now then, you have to make a major decision. Maybe our snow lives, yep, right there. And all you do is pull. When you're painting snow, angles are extremely, extremely important. So pay attention to the lay of the land here. How you want this snow to flow. There, and I want it to come slightly downward, but not a great deal, just so it looks like there's a little incline there. And by pulling those strokes in that direction, that will happen automatically. Automatically. You don't have to worry about it. Just think about the angle that you have in here. There. A little shadow right in here. Taking a little of that gray color and pulling back this direction. And I'll show you why here in just a second. Let them blend together. So you have a little shadow area. There. Now then, maybe in our world, go back to the plain white, maybe in our world we'll have, yep, how about right here? We'll change the angle and let it come right through. See, there it is. Just pull it. You can do anything in your world that you want to do. That easy. By changing this angle, we have a whole different plane in that painting. And it pushes that and that and that way back further. And planes in a painting, different planes. Each one of these is a plane, not an airplane going by. Each one of these planes helps create that illusion of depth and distance in your painting. And I like a lot of depth and distance in my paintings. I think that's what makes painting spectacular. Oh, I just had another idea. This little hill here, let's do this. Take a little of the Prussian blue and the black, mix it together. I want this to be pretty dark. I'm only putting a small amount of white in this. I want it to be a little darker than the background color. A little bit more white. There we go. And you just mix these colors on the brush. Once again, don't worry about it. Just mix them on the brush. Let's go up in here. Maybe on this little hill, there lives a happy little tree right here. Right there. There. If you've painted with me before, you know I have a lot of little squirrels and other animals that live with me. And this would be a good place for my little squirrel to, he could sit up here and look all out over the countryside and see what was happening. And my little squirrel certainly is nosy. He'd want to know. Maybe later on in the show we'll show you some of those again. Right now I have 5 of them that live with me. There. Sometimes that's worse than having 5 children. We'll have another little tree over here. What the heck? But all you're using is a corner of the fan brush, and you just sort of push downward. Just push downward like that. And as you work down the tree, you push harder and harder because you want the branches and the limbs to get larger and larger. Now down here at the bottom, all you got to do is take a little touch of this white on the 2-inch brush, grab a little of that color. Intentionally grab the color because that'll make a shadow right underneath, see? And just pull it. And it'll give that little tree a place to set on there. You don't want him just sitting up there sort of floating. There. And once again, begin thinking about angles in your snow. There we are. See there? Now you can take, maybe there's a little bush or 2 little grassy areas down here at his foot. Take that same color and just sort of push upward a little bit. That'll help create that illusion. And you can grab and clean up the bottom of the little grassy areas same way until you have it just as smooth as silk. There. And let's take our knife. We'll use the old knife here. We'll just put the indication of a little trunk here and there. I don't want a lot of detail. This is too far away in my world. Just some indication. See, we just pull through and you can turn a few trees into a whole forest back here. Scratch through the paint and it'll give the indication of a little trunk here and there. And maybe there's a little stick or twig. Whatever. Shoot, let's get crazy. You know me. Shoot, this would be a wonderful place. If my little squirrel's going to live there, I'd have to have a house too. So let's come right in here. Let's have us a little cabin lives right here. Now, one of the easiest ways, take your knife, and I may not be able to see that, but scrape out a basic shape. It does 2 things. It allows you to lay out your little cabin without being committed, and it removes excess paint. So the next layer goes on easier. See there? But you can scrape out the whole basic little shape, and you're still not committed at this point. There we are. Now then, let's take a little Van Dyke brown. We load that little roll of paint on the knife by pulling it out flat and then cutting across it. Let's do a back eave back here. It's just Van Dyke brown, that's all it is. Pull down. There we go. Give him a nice little side there. Over here. Just pull down. There. Now if you haven't painted with us before, one thing that I should mention, the paint that we use is extremely firm. It is much firmer than traditional oil paints. Much, much firmer. That's the only reason we can paint wet on wet. In other words, do the whole painting while it's still wet. If you put a very firm paint up here first, then you can put thinner colors right over the top of it without becoming a mud mixer. And if you've painted before, all of us have experienced a little mud mixing. It just comes with the territory. Nobody has a monopoly on mud mixing. We all get a chance at it. Take a little Van Dyke and white and mix it together. But see how flat you pull it out, flat as you can get it. Cut across, and then we have a tiny roll of paint. There you can see it, wonderful. Right out on the edge of the knife there. It lives right out there. And very lightly, touch, and just let it float, just so it's barely touching. I want this side to be lighter than the back side back here. Just barely touch. Barely touch. Maybe there's some boards here. We'll just take a little Van Dyke brown on there and just touch, make the indication of some little boards. Over here we need a few, something like so. There. And maybe we have a little window or two over here. We just take a small edge of the knife and just sort of scrape us out a little window indication. Then I'll use a little bit of the midnight black. Nobody's home today. Or he didn't pay his electric bill. Don't see any wires running to his house anyway, so there. Give him a little door so he can get in and out. But when you're painting, make up little stories like it. You know, your family and friends will look at you like you're a little weird, but that's all right. Artists are expected to be a little different. But it really helps you. If you make up little stories, then you can see these things in your mind. And anything that you can see in your mind, very quickly, you can learn to put on canvas. Here we're just doing a cabinectomy. In other words, we're cutting off whatever we don't want to get our perspective and everything right. Now, we have a roof that we need to put on. So we'll take the white, pull it out very flat. Here's a little trick. If you want to get your edges nice and straight, just lay the edges all in first using the straight edge of the knife. Excuse my arm for a second. There. And this will make it a little easier when you pull down. See, now everything will be straight on the edges. There. And there are no firm rules in this. I only want to show you ways that things will work. As you paint every day, you're going to find new ways that are much better than what I'm showing you. Use them. Painting is an individual thing. If it works for you, then it's wonderful. And that's really all that matters. If you're happy with it, and it's what you wanted, that's the only rule. The only rule is that you really should enjoy this. Let's take a little white, bring it right up to the cabin there, like so. We'll bring a little right down in here, like that, and go. All right, over in here, a little touch of that shadow color, a little blue, a little black, and just sort of blend them together. There. All right. Let's really have some fun now. I've got several little fan brushes going. I want to mix up a crazy color here. I love this color. We're going to take alizarin crimson and sap green in about equal parts. Mix them very well. Normally we don't mix color too well. For this color, mix it very, very well. Very well. And it makes a gorgeous brown. Just absolutely a gorgeous brown. Let me wipe the old knife off. I just wiped the knife on a paper towel here. Okay. And we just run the old fan brush right through it. Load both sides full of color. A lot of paint. Now then, maybe in our world there lives. Let's start it right there. You know me. If you painted me before, I like these old big trees. Something like so. Maybe he's got another arm. Comes right down. Ooh, I said big tree. We're going to have a big tree. Maybe there's even an arm back here. Like that. Wherever you think they should be. This piece of canvas is totally your world. And you can do anything here that you want to do. Okay. Take a little bit of that brown we made. Mix it with some white. That is just one of the most gorgeous brown colors. It sounds horrible when you talk about green and red mixed together. A little roll of paint. There's our light. And in our world, maybe there's just a little light zinging right through here like so. I'm just touching the canvas with that little roll of paint. Just touch it. The canvas will pull off what it wants. Give you back what's left. There. Just wherever you think light would zing through here. Something about like so. Now you can make this entire tree with a knife if you wanted to. It's up to you. It's a little faster with a fan brush. There we go. A little bit over in here. Wherever. Now then, let's firm up this dark edge and just let the knife bounce and graze and barely touch. You want this to be rough. When it dries, this will actually feel like bark on there. If you just let it bounce and graze. There. Okay, something like so. There we are. Now then, let's go to our little liner brush. We'll use a script liner brush. Put some paint thinner on the brush. We want to thin this paint. Get quite a bit of paint thinner. I want this to be thin like ink. And roll the bristles in there and pull it out so they come out very, very sharp. Okay, now then, let's go right in here and think about where some little tree limbs that live on this tree. But your paint should literally flow on here. Should literally just flow. And if it doesn't, add a little bit more of the paint thinner. If it's not flowing, normally that's the problem. Normally that's the problem. There. Maybe there's a big old arm here that comes right on across. Shoot. There we are. But you let your tree go wherever you want it to go. Just move it around and play and carry on. Something like so. There. Okay. Now we can just dip that clean brush right into a little bit of liquid white, put a little snow right around the bottom here. There, just sort of fill that in. Tell you what, let's do. Let's take a little more of that brown color. Let's have, maybe there's what remains of a little fence right here. Something like so. All we do is touch, come right across, put a little bar. Maybe there's a little thing there. A little bit of that white right along the edge. A little right on there. Okay. Take a little touch. Maybe a little shadow right there in the snow. Something like so. And we'll just put the indication of a little path here. And with that, I think this whole painting will be about finished. Hope you try this one. It's very simple. You'll enjoy it. You'll have fantastic results. So with that, I think we're going to call this one finished. And from all of us here, I'd like to wish you happy painting, and God bless, my friend. Hi, welcome back. Certainly glad you could join us today, because today I thought we'd do a fantastic little painting that I think you'll enjoy. So I tell you what, let's start out and have run all the colors across the screen that you need to paint this little painting that we're going to do today. And come on up here, let me show you what I've got done already. One of my favorite things in this painting technique is black gesso. And today, let's do one that has a lot of black gesso on it. And I've put this on using nothing but a paper towel. I just wadded up a paper towel and just sort of daubed it all over. And I wanted it darker at the bottom than at the top. So I've really put a lot down here, and up in here I've just sort of let it just play around and barely touched. Then I took a foam brush. I want a big tree in this painting. That's about all I know. So I put the basic shape of a large tree. And now we're going to take, and we're going to do something a little different today. Today, I'm covering this, as you caught me doing, with a mixture of liquid clear and sap green. Now I've taken and made this till it's very thin, almost like liquid white normally is. It's not quite a liquid, but it's very, very thin. And instead of putting liquid white on the canvas like we normally do, today we'll put, well, let's call it liquid green. What the heck? And come on up here and let's finish doing that. And all we're looking for is, just like with the liquid white, a very thin, even coat all the way across the canvas. And just sort of scrub it in. It's that easy. And with this liquid clear, you can make any liquid color that you want. I think it's better to use sort of transparent colors, but you really can do this with any color that you desire, and you will not believe some of the effects that you can achieve with this. There. But because this sap green is so transparent, all the little things that we did with the black gesso show through, and already it's beginning to give the illusion of a lot of little bushes and trees that are far, far back in the distance. And I think I'll do a little scene that looks like we're deep in the woods. I really like those kind of scenes. There. And as I say, all we're looking for is a nice, thin, even coat. Now the black gesso, of course, is allowed to dry completely before you put the liquid color on. But we don't want the liquid color to dry before we start. There. All right. Let me wash the old brush. And we wash our brushes with odorless paint thinner. Be sure it's odorless. Otherwise, you're going to be the most unpopular person in the house. shake off the excess, and then just beat the devil out of it. All right, now let's really have some fun. Let's take that same old brush. We're going to a little titanium white. Be right back. Let me get a little touch of cad yellow maybe and put in there with it. Now this is just titanium white, a little bit of cad yellow mixed together. Not much yellow, just a little. Okay, let's go right up in here. Now you sort of have to decide what's going to happen where. I'm just going to take the corner of the brush and begin swirling in some little patterns. Now the sap green is very transparent. The white is opaque. So now things are going to start happening. A little more color on there. There. And just swirl this. I don't want to cover up every bit of the green though. I want some of it to show through. And in some places the white's going to be so thin that you literally can still see through it, even though it's opaque. And play with this. You'll be amazed at some of the effects that you can achieve. Absolutely amazed. This is one of the neatest things that we've ever come up with. There. But you can just make it look like the sun is zinging through there and all kinds of beautiful little effects are happening. Just sort of turn your imagination loose. Let it go. Let it go. That's what painting is all about. There. A little bit showing through the trees up here. Wherever. Okay. Now then, I have several of each brush going, so I don't have to spend all of my time washing brushes. So we'll take a nice dry 2-inch brush and very gently, using just the corner, just begin blending all that together. And you can blend this to any degree of softness that you want. So as you're doing this, step back and take a look-see, because it's very hard to see your painting when you're right up against it. Just step back and take a look. See if it's blended as much as you wanted or not enough. And you can always add more of the titanium white to make it brighter if you want. So you're not committed. You can do anything here that you want to do. There, just gently blend it and leave some of these areas a little brighter. When it's all done, it will begin looking like light shining between trees way in the distance. And as oil paintings dry, they'll lose a little bit of their brilliance. They'll dull down just a little bit, not much, but just a little. So you make it a little bit brighter than you actually want it. And by the time the painting's dry, then it'll calm down. There. But isn't that a fantastic way of making just a background that's almost unreal? I love these kind of little things. My mother loves these things. She really likes these paintings that are deep in the woods. And right now she's not feeling too good. She's in the hospital while we're making this show. So let's dedicate this one to my mother. She's my favorite lady in the whole world. So Mom, this one's for you. I hope you feel better soon. There. Okay. Now then, I'm going to take a little bit of the paint thinner. I'm going to take a little bit of, well, we'll use a little black, a little sap green. Be right back. Just mix them together on the brush here. Let me get a little more paint thinner. Need just a touch more of the thinner. There. You want this to be very thin, almost the consistency of ink. All right. Now then, let's go up in here. Let's begin thinking about all kind of little tree trunks and sticks and branches that live way back in here. If you have the paint thin enough, it'll flow right over the top of this, because the titanium white you put in there was very thick. It's very thick. It's very dry paint, much drier than traditional oil paints. And I know I hear this every day. People go to the art store to get some very dry paint, and they'll tell them it makes no difference. Just use whatever they happen to have. It does make a difference. Really. If you have a soft paint, you just absolutely can't paint over the top of it because it just blends together and we become mud mixers. There. And if you have a little nervous twitch to your hand, it makes much nicer tree branches. So just sort of let them wiggle and jiggle and wherever you think they should live. All these little things. Wherever. And if it gets to where it doesn't want to slide easy, all you have to do Add a little more paint thinner to your brush. There. Okay. Now then, tell you what. Let me clean this. Let's just clean this liquid clear and sap green off so I have a place to work. We'll put a little of it over there. Maybe we'll use it in a minute. And let's take a little white, a little bit of sap green. This will be our highlight color when we get to it. And I'll just mix it and set it over here. A little cad yellow, yellow ochre. Ooh, we'll just leave it right there. That's our highlight color. Now then, for base color, I'll use black, sap green, and a little touch of yellow ochre into it. Just a little yellow ochre. Now we have two piles of color, our dark and our light. Let me clean the old knife off here. And I just wipe the knife on a paper towel. Today, let me introduce you to a brand new brush. Today we have a half-size round brush. This is a very small round brush. I've used other ones in the past, but they were quite large. This one's a half size. It's much easier to control. Tiny little brush. And we load it by just tapping. Just tap a little color right into it. And let's go up in here. Now then, maybe in our world there lives, just use the brush like so, tap in, maybe there's a happy little tree. He lives right there. Right there. There. Let a little that trunk show through. Okay, and he's got a friend. There's his friend. You know me. I think everybody needs a friend. Everybody needs a friend. But look at that. Isn't that a fantastic little brush? Little rascal works, maybe. Yeah, why not? Let's have some nice little things that are living right over in here. There. Just tap them in. Think about general shape, and that's really all you have to worry about. The brush does the rest of the work. Just tap. Just tap. But do think about basic shapes. There. A little bit in here. And because we have the black gesso under here, we don't have to worry much down in here. Most of your dark color is already in. It's already in for you. Maybe we'll have a little, how about something like that? And these little paintings will just sort of happen. If you just start playing and looking at them, they just really sort of happen. Because you begin seeing little things that live back in here. And the more that you paint and the more that you practice, the more that you're able to visualize these. You really don't have to trace and have patterns and all that stuff on here. You really can learn to be creative as you paint. And it's like anything else. It takes a little practice. Chances are you didn't drive the car real well the first time you tried. But with a little practice, got very good at it. Of course, the other day I met a driver I think had never done more than that first time. He almost ran me off the road. All right, now then, we'll just use that same brush, and I'm going to dip it into a little touch of the liquid clear. That'll be our thinning agent. Because as you know, a thin paint will stick to a thick paint. And the color that we put up there was very thick, very dry. Now then, by just pushing, see the edge of those bristles now has a little bit of that light color on there, and the liquid clear has made it a little thinner. So let's go up in here. Now think, if this is our light source right in here, think about light just zinging right through here. Just making all kinds of beautiful little things in there. Wherever you think they should live. There. Don't kill all your dark. This starts working well and you have a tendency to get carried away. There. Something like so. And this other little tree here, we'll give him just a touch of highlight right there. There. Okay, a little bit over in here. Think about shape and form when you're doing this. Don't just hit it random. You won't be happy with me. And this one, we'll put a little bit on him. There we are. Something like so. This would be a fantastic place for my little creatures to live. I have all kind of little creatures. Shoot, I got squirrels and crows and just everything. Tell you what, I'm going to put on a few more of these while they're doing that. Let me show you one of my little creatures. This is I want to have him bring up a little raccoon here that I played with. This came from one of our rehab ladies were close to where I live, named Carmen Shaw. And I borrowed him. He's a loner raccoon, but he's the cutest little devil. And he's so much fun to play with. But they do grow up and they get a little nasty sometimes. One of them little rascals can. So if you're raising a raccoon, be careful when they grow up. They're pretty tough little characters. But when they're babies like this, God's never made a more delightful little thing. And they're just like feeding a little baby. They just lay there, and when they're done, you pat them on the back and they burp. I get sort of carried away with these little characters. Shoot. My mother lives with me, and her and I have all kinds of these little characters. Isn't that precious little devil, though? See the milk running out of his mouth? He's not very neat. There. Okay. There we are. We're just putting some little things here and there and working layers here. I'm just varying the greens back and forth. Little cad yellow, little Indian yellow, little yellow ochre once in a while, and now and then, at least a little touch of bright red. And the bright red, believe it or not, is your duller. It will make the green turn brownish. So use a little bright red when you want to dull the color. There. But mostly greens in this particular painting, I think. And every once in a while I'll dip back into the liquid clear just to get a little more of the thinner, just to make it thinner. You could use paint thinner. I like sometimes to use this clear because when it dries, any place that you put the clear will have a nice shine to it. It's almost like the painting was glazed. There we go. But think about how the little bushes and stuff. Oh, I know. I see something here. Let's take, you know me, I get crazy. Let's take a little of the dark sienna and the Van Dyke brown and white and mix it together. And leave it sort of marbled like it. Don't over mix it. Just leave it sort of like it. Get a little roll of paint right on the edge of the knife. Now then, in my world, there's going to be a little path here. Just a little path right through here. Like that. There. Just start. Let it get wider and wider as it comes towards you. Look at that. But see how that color just jumps out at you against that dark background? That blank gesso is one of the neatest things we've ever come up with. I really love it. And the more you rub this, the more it'll pick up the green color underneath. There, and the darker it'll get. So you have to make decisions. Maybe. I don't know where this path's going to go. I guess we better make a decision here pretty quick. Maybe it comes on out here. I don't know. Wherever you want it. And in your world, you decide where you want your little path to be. And maybe you want to paint a little raccoon sitting right out there on it. You can do that. You can do anything that you want to do on this piece of canvas. Absolutely anything. Let's mix a little more of our highlight color here. And all I'm doing, once again, is tapping. Sort of give it a little push. So there's a little touch of paint right on the end of the bristles. And begin thinking about, well, maybe right here. Maybe there's a happy little bush that lives right there. Just think about the shape of that little rascal. Let it come right on out to the path. Get darker and darker and darker down toward the base. Use less pressure. Barely touch. Barely touch. Just let it graze down in there. There. Now then, maybe up in here. How about right there? This one is a little darker. A little darker. It's back here more in the shadows. So he's a little quieter. Just a happy little tree that lives back here, and he watches everything. And he's got a little friend right there. There he is. There he is. I like landscapes so much, I think, because when I was a kid, we lived way out in the woods. They had to pipe sunlight in where we lived. It was so far out. And I spent a great deal of time in the woods. And there wasn't many other kids around, and I had to learn to play with the creatures that were in the woods. That's why I like animals and little squirrels and raccoons and all those things so much, because they're very special. Very special. And when I got old, I guess I didn't lose that. Still like them. I wish I could take them all home with me. After a while, you have to sort of draw the line somewhere. Otherwise, your house looks like a zoo. There we are. Okay. Now then, we can take, we'll just take a little fan brush here. That's number 3 fan brush, doesn't matter. And you can soften these edges very gently, so it looks like you're in shadow underneath some of these little bushes and stuff. And it's a nice way to clean it all up and bring it together. There, very gently, just soften them. There we go. Okay. Now, we got to start making some big decisions here pretty soon. We'll put a couple more little sticks in and think about it for a minute. Use a little bit of the midnight black with paint thinner. Maybe there's a nice tree trunk right there that we can see. Paint should be extremely thin though. Very, very thin. There. Maybe there's a little tree right here that we can make out. And here and there, wherever. And you put a few in that are lighter color here and there if you want to. Just look at your particular painting, because every painting that's ever done is going to be different. No two will ever look alike. And that's what makes it so fantastic. You don't want your paintings to just look alike. There. All right, let's start on this old big tree. That's the fun part of this whole painting. I'm going to load a fan brush with just midnight black. Just midnight black. There. Okay, now then. With the black gesso, we have a basic shape in here. So all we have to do is just sort of fill it in good and dark. There we go. Maybe a little tree, maybe it goes right on off like that. There. This is going to be a huge tree. I want the edges to be sort of gnarly. Is that a word? Gnarly? You know what I mean, all bumpety. Maybe it comes down like that. Maybe there's, yeah, let's do this. Maybe there's a big old root that comes right out here in the path nearly. Because if you're walking down the path here and you get tired, this is where you'd sit and maybe you had a little picnic lunch. You could sit there and kick back, put your foot up, watch the little squirrels play. Yeah, I like to do that. I'm a big time hunter. I take my camera to the woods and shoot them with a camera. There. Okay, do the other side of the old tree. He comes down, maybe like that. Maybe like that. This tree's got a lot of arms. There. In your tree, you decide how many arms you want it to have and put them wherever you think they should be. And if you look around, maybe out in your yard, you've got a big tree that you'd like to put in your painting. You can get a basic idea and a basic shape just from that tree and drop that rascal in. And you're not committed. Trees grow, they're like people. They grow just about every way imaginable. Every way imaginable. And all are wonderful. There. Now then, I go back to my liner brush. Put a lot of paint thinner in it. A lot of paint thinner. I want to make this very thin. Very thin. Now then, maybe here and there, we'll just put the indication of a few more little branches and stuff that are just sort of dripping off there. They just hang around and have a good time. There we go. See, wherever you want them. Wherever. And when you're doing this, don't just try to copy. Do what you want to do. Art, painting should be very individual. Very individual. We all see nature through different eyes. And you should paint what you see, not what somebody else tells you is right or wrong. Paint what you want. Maybe there's a big old lamb that lives right there. Got to make those little noises or it doesn't work. There we go. See? There he is. That easy. A little more of the paint thinner. Maybe there's one over here that just goes right on off the canvas. It doesn't matter. As I say, trees are so individual. Any way that you want them, that's the right way. Now then, we'll take a little dark sienna, Van Dyke brown, mix them together. About like so. We want it marbled. Pull across, get our little roll of paint. Now then, this is the fun part. Touch, no pressure, no pressure. Let it just float down the tree. Just float. Barely, barely touching, barely touching. Just float. This old tree limb out here. Let him come down. But see there? No pressure. I know you get tired of hearing me say that over and over, but that's the secret to it. That's what makes that paint break and look like that, is the fact that there is no pressure on the knife. It's just like, well, if you've painted mountains with me in some of the previous shows, it's the same principle. No pressure at all. And if you learn to do that, then you can use this knife to do, well, you can do entire paintings. In some of the series we've done in the past, entire paintings have been done using nothing but the knife. Now we'll take a little white and Prussian blue. I want a very dark blue. And over here on this side, I'm going to put just a little hint of blue. And that's to indicate like a little reflected light that just plays through there. Just here and there. And go back, take our black, and then we can pull limbs over the top of other limbs. You have to make decisions, which limb's in front, which one's behind, and you can do that. See, that pulls that limb right directly in front, that easy. That easy. Now, back to our little half-size round brush, a little bit of the highlight color. And down here around his little foots, we can begin putting in some little grassy things that live in there. Back in here, very dark. This is behind the tree. It'd be in a lot of shadow. Very dark. Oh, there. And just put in all kinds of things. This little brush works so well. I don't know why I didn't have it a long time ago. There. See him? But just let all those little things happen. And this is what begins creating those illusions of depth and distance. There we go. Something like so. And then we can take our liner brush, a little bit of that brown and white. Some of these larger limbs here, you can put a little touch of highlight on them. Something like that. Something like that. And sometimes you can get a little crazy. Maybe right up in here, we just draw a little silhouette, maybe. Little silhouette. There's my little squirrel. Put him a big bushy tail. And he sits up here and he watches the whole world go by in this beautiful little forest. See? Just a little silhouette. That's probably Peapod, the pocket squirrel. We showed him in one of the earlier series. All right, I think we're about to the point we can sign this one. Take a little red, come right down in here, and we'll sign it. Certainly hope you've enjoyed this painting. Try these black gesso paintings. I believe you'll find that they work so fantastic. Even if you've never painted, these will work for you. From all of us here, I'd like to wish you a happy painting, and God bless, my friend. Hi, welcome back. Certainly glad to see you today. It's a fantastic day here, and I hope it is wherever you're at. So I tell you what, let's start out today and have them run all the colors across the screen that you need to paint along with us. While they're doing that, let me show you what I got done up here. I have my standard old pre-stretched canvas up here, and I've covered it with just a thin, even coat of liquid white. And the liquid white just makes the canvas wet and slick, and so we're all ready to go. So let's do a fantastic little painting day. Today I want to show you a very simple little painting that really works well. Just let's do something easy. Start with the old 2-inch brush and let's go right into a little touch of the phthalo blue. And just touch a little and pull it out, and then tap the bristles. That gets us a nice even distribution of color. See, all the way through the bristles. Okay, let's go up here. Because we have the liquid white on here, the color is continually mixing. So you start at the top, making little X's, little crisscross strokes, just like so. But see how it blends with that liquid white? If you had a dry canvas, ooh, it just doesn't work like that. The liquid white really allows you to blend color. It makes life easy when you're painting. There we are. And as we work down toward the horizon, we want it to get lighter and lighter in value. And that will happen automatically because, once again, the paint's mixing with the liquid white that's on the canvas, and so it gets lighter in value automatically. You don't even have to do a thing. There. Something about like so. Now maybe I want to darken the edges a little, so I'm going to add just a touch of the Prussian blue. Prussian blue is much stronger than the phthalo blue, so just a little bit. Don't want much. I'm going to go right up here, right on the edges, and I want to darken those so when the painting's finished, your eye is going to go up in this area. The light area will lead your eye right into it. And a little touch maybe on the other side. What the heck, we don't want him left out. There. And just very gently go right across. That just takes out the brush strokes and brings everything together. Okay, now, while we have a little brush going here, we'll take a little more of the blues. Well, I'll use both blues. What the heck, we'll start with phthalo, like we did on the sky. Let's go up in here. Maybe there's a little water in here. You know me. Shoot, I love water. Now, still water is always level. Always level. So try to keep your strokes as straight as possible. There. A little more of the blue over on the other side. And pull from the outside in. That way, this is a nice feathered edge here. You don't have a distinct line that you have to try to work out. Just pull from the outside in. And don't worry about it this time. Anything that we don't want to be water, shoot, we'll just cover it up. Just cover it up. There we go. Now then, fun time. Let me wash the old brush. If you've painted with me before, you know this is the highlight of the whole painting. There we go. Just shake it off. And just cover the entire studio. You should see our camera crew. Now then, I just want to brighten this a little. So I'm going to take the least little touch of cad yellow and just put right in here. Just a little yellow highlight. Not much. Not much. And then we'll work that in. There. And when that touches blue, it'll just make us a nice greenish color. And we don't mind it in the water. All right. And that easy. We have sky and water. See, I told you this was going to be a very simple little painting. That's easy enough that even if you've never painted before, you can do this one. You can do it. And you can clean the brush. Now then, let's build us a little cloud. Everybody likes to have clouds in the painting, so I'll show you a very simple way. We'll use the old 1-inch brush and just pull it through some color. Titanium white. Just pull it through. Let's go up in here. Maybe our cloud lives right here. Little tiny circles. Little tiny circles. There you go. And just let that brush dance and play. But think about a basic cloud shape. Don't just throw it up there and think that a cloud will appear. You have to have a basic shape to work with. Something about like that. What the heck? We don't care. Clouds are very free. Very, very free. Now with a good, clean, dry 2-inch brush, gently, 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 just using the top corner of the brush, blend the base of the cloud very gently. I'm just beating the brush to knock off the excess paint. Then we'll fluff it a little, like so, and very gently, one hair and some air, whisper light. Just go right over it. Tell you what, shoot, that was so much fun. Let's get crazy. Maybe in our world there's several little clouds. I want to add the least little touch of the bright red to that. And let me say least one more time because it's a very small amount. And once again, pull it in one direction. See, got a little color there. All right, let's go up in here. You probably noticed there we put tape on the furrows of these brushes and stuff just so they don't shine too much. There. I get letters sometimes that say the equipment that you use looks different than what I have. It's no different. It really is no different. All we do is we have to dull it. Otherwise, when all these lights in the studio hit it, it would shine and make big glares in the TV, and this mean old director would yell at me. So we just put a little bit of tape on there. And the knife, I spray paint it with just black paint. There. Shoot. Tell you what. It's such a nice little cloud. Maybe he's got another little friend right there. But do it in layers, finishing one cloud at a time. Don't get greedy. Sometimes it gets feeling good and you just get sort of carried away and try to do them all at once. Just do one little cloud at a time. One little cloud at a time. Blend it in, fluff it, tease it. There, very lightly. One hair and some air. Maybe. Shoot, we're having so much fun with clouds. I'll tell you what, I'm going to put another one right here. Now, when you're doing your painting, you decide. Wherever you want a cloud, then that's the right place to put one. Don't put one here just because I did. Put one in your painting because you want it there. And then it's strictly yours. I just want to show you how to make a cloud. How many clouds you make or where you put them, strictly up to you. Painting should be very free. Maybe sometime you can just take and spin the brush a little bit and put in some little wispy clouds, little floaters. Just sort of spin the brush and let these little rascals just float in there. See how easy that is? Now, same thing again. Just blend the base of the cloud and use the top corner of the brush. So if you use the bottom corner, you can't tell where that's hitting. Use the top corner and you can see exactly where it's hitting. See, if you hold it that way, you can't tell where it's hitting. You're just guessing. And you want to be able to control this rascal and where it goes. Over here, these little wispies, I'm not even going to do anything but just blend right over them. These are little soft floaters that live way back in the distance somewhere, far away, far, far away. Okay. All right, isn't that easy? We have some happy little clouds. Now then, I'll tell you what let's do. Let's build us a little mountain. We'll take some black, Van Dyke brown, at least a little touch of Prussian blue. I don't want much blue in this. I want mostly black, but a little brown and blue, just to change the flavor. Cut across, and we get a little roll of paint. Lives right out there on the edge of the knife. See him out there? Now, come right up in here. Let's have a nice mountain that lives right here. See? Now, I've had some people say that it's hard to make mountains. I'm going to show you the easiest way imaginable. All we do is just put in a basic shape, and you decide the shape of your mountain. You decide. If you don't live someplace there's mountains and you want to paint a mountain, there are books and videotapes and all kind of stuff that show you all different shapes of mountains. Or just make one up. Just make it up. There. Be creative when you paint. Just let your imagination take you to worlds that exist only in your mind, but you can put them on canvas. There. I think I've mentioned in some other series. That's probably what initially got me interested in painting, is that I could create any kind of world that I wanted. Any kind of world that I wanted. No bad stuff here. That's why we have happy little trees and everything's happy here. Okay, now I'm just going to sort of pull that down. Grab it and sort of pull it down. Just like we would normally do to make a mountain. See, it's getting lighter down at the base. And over here, we'll just go in this direction. And all we're doing is just pulling the color out so the next thing sticks easier. There, get rid of that excess paint more than anything else. All right. Now let's take a little touch of we take some titanium white, at least a little touch of dark sienna, maybe just a touch more than that. Ooh, that's nice. That's nice. Little roll of paint, once again. Put a very small roll of paint. Now then, go up in here and just barely touch, and just let it sort of float down the mountain. See there? Okay, see how easy that is? Now if you do it fast, it works better than just barely doing it. For some reason it works better, but no pressure. You want this paint to break. And by break, I mean have all these little holes here in it. See there? And maybe a little touch right in here. Got to make those little noises. And sometimes those little noises really do help. For some reason, they just sort of make things work better. There. All right. We'll just use that same old brush. Shoot, we don't care. Take a little bit of cad yellow ochre. Be right back. Get a little touch of black. A little bit of sap green. There we go. But mix these colors on the brush so you have a multitude of things happening on the brush. A little Indian yellow here and there, and here and there I'm going to touch the least little touch of the bright red. All on one brush though. Look at all the colors that are in that one brush. And we're touching and pushing. Okay, let's go up here. Now then I want to make little grassy areas that flow right up the hill. So all we do is touch and tap. Follow the angles. Always follow those angles. There. See them? But isn't that simple? All you're doing is just tapping. The most important thing is the angles here. You don't want your mountain to flow up this way and you put grasses going in a different direction. It will disturb you. I bet you've looked at paintings and your mind says, something's wrong with that painting. You might not be able to tell exactly what it is, but you know something's wrong with it. And sometimes it can be something as simple as that. So these little things that we talk about all the time, like lay of the land and following the correct angles, are most important. Most important. They'll make your painting special. Very special. Watch here. See, that one sort of went on over. So all you have to do, we'll take a little touch of black. Put right there. See, just give it something to stand on. Don't want it to just lay out there by itself. There. And very lightly pull that down. And I want it to remain a little darker, so it looks like it's closer in the foreground. There, very lightly. Just let it blend right into nothing. And you can do that with just a knife, that easy. Least little bit of color on the knife, and you can put the indication here and there of little things that are happening. But that's just a little black on there. Just to see how it makes it look like there's little things happening back here. And every time you have a little projection here, you need a little shadow underneath it or it won't play with you. It'll just go home and leave you. There we are. There. See, and then with a clean brush you can very gently just blend that up a little bit. But isn't that a neat way of making a mountain that really looks like it's far away? Now we go back to our brush that has the grassy colors on it. And we can begin just putting in all kinds of little things. And once in a while, you can hit a least little touch of titanium white and just put a little bright spot here and there. But don't overdo, or it will lose its effectiveness, like there's a little light hitting right there. Bing! Here it comes. It's going right over. There it is. See, I tell you what, let that go right on out there. And once in a while you can hit a little sap green just to give it a little dark areas here and there so it's not all the same identical color. There we go. There. Okay. But isn't that a fantastic and very easy way of making a gorgeous little mountain? Ooh. Sometimes I get carried away. I see something here. Let's take some black, Prussian blue, a little crimson, and sap green. We'll just mix all those together. Okay, let me wipe my knife off. We just wipe the old knife on a paper towel. Yeah. I use number 3 fan brush, and I'm going to put some of that dark color on there. Both sides, load it full. And maybe right up in here lives, yep, maybe there's a little stand of evergreens that lives right in here. I think that's what you call a whole group. I know it's not a herd of evergreens, so I think it's a stand of evergreen. A whole family, what the heck. A bunch. There. Now, back to our brush we were making the little grassy areas with. Put a little grass right there in front. And see, that dark color will make an instant shadow underneath it. You don't even have to worry about it. There we go. Now then, let's get crazy. You know me. You know me. I like to play. Let's see, we had black, a little Van Dyke, a little Prussian. Mix that same color again. Once again, our little roll of paint. There it is. Maybe over here on this side. Yep. Let's have another one. Lives right here. Another big old mountain. It comes down right there. Certainly does now. Maybe, I don't know, maybe this one's got a little bump right here too. And then comes right on out like that somewhere. There we go. But mostly black. I'm using a very dark color here, mostly black. All right. Now, grab that, and once again, just pull it out, just like we did the other one. This is just a repeat of the other side. You'll do it twice, and that'll give you a lot of practice. A lot of practice. There. Okay. And once again, we take a little white with a little touch of dark sienna in it. Maybe at least a little touch of black into that one, just so it has some variations. We come right up here, barely touch, whisper. Just whisper light. Let it go. Let it go. No pressure. I think I've mentioned before when I was teaching my son Steve to paint, I used to tell him just to pretend he was a whisper and floated right across the mountain. And he understood that. It made him understand what a gentle touch this is. A lot of times I absolutely drop the knife because I'm holding it so gently. All right. Now, we go back to our brush that had the little grassy colors on it. And let's just sort of bring all that together. There it comes. See, just let that grass float right up there, though. Just sort of let it work its way right up there. And you have to decide how far up the mountain it lives. Since this is your world, you make that decision. There we go. Wherever. There. Okay, maybe here and there I'm going to touch a little tiny bit of the bright red, but not much, not too much bright red. But once again, and I know you get tired of hearing it, but pay attention to these angles. They're so important. These angles are what make it work. They make it work. There. Something about like that. And you can make this as bright or as dark as you want it, depending on your mood and what you see in your painting. Any way that you want it. Sometimes when you're not in such a good mood, paintings have a tendency to get a little darker because paintings reflect your mood. Sometimes you're not even conscious of it, it happens. Now then, I'm just going to take a clean, dry brush, and I want to tap the base of this to create the illusion of mist down here. Just the illusion of mist. There, right down here at the base. Okay, very gently. You can also grab and lift upward here and there to make it look like little distant tree shapes. Little trees that are poking up. There. Okay. Now then, let's tell you what, we'll just take that old dark color that we had, go right into it. This was the evergreen color. So let's go back in here. Maybe there's a little bit of land lives right here. There it comes. Just tap it in. The big thing I wanted to show in this painting is how to make very simple little mountains. And I think we've done some pretty nice little mountains there for little quickies. And you can do that. There, this is just dark color so we can put a lighter color on top of it later. And it'll stand out. absolutely have to have dark in order to have light. Gotta have dark. Gotta have opposites, dark and light, light and dark, continually in painting. If you have light on light, you have nothing. If you have dark on dark, you basically have nothing. There we are. You know, it's like in life. You gotta have a little sadness once in a while so you know when the good times come. I'm waiting on the good times now. There. I'm mixing black, a little sap green, Prussian blue, Van Dyke brown, alizarin crimson, anything that looks dark. Let me clean off my knife. Anything that looks dark. And we'll load up the old fan brush here, full of color, a lot of color. Let's build us a forest. Maybe back here, and all we're going to do is touch and pull down. Don't worry much about this. All you're looking for is some very basic little shapes back in here. Just some basic little shapes, wherever you think they should be. Something like that. Okay. Wherever. There. These are little background trees that are far away. Far away. They just live here, and they look back at that big old mountain range and have a good time. And then here and there, and there and here, there's a few that are a little more distinct. There. So use the corner of the fan brush and put you some little arms and limbs and little hands, whatever. All kinds of little things out here on these trees. There we go. And you just decide how many live in there, wherever you want them. There. Okay, maybe over here they're a little bigger, maybe a little stronger here, a little more light hit them. There we go. We'll give him another friend. What the heck? Something like that. All right. Let's go on the other side. Don't want him left out. We'll give him a nice big strong tree right there. There he is. But as you work down, push harder and harder with the fan brush. And it'll force the bristles to bend downward. And it'll make all those little hangy down things underneath your tree limbs. And evergreens always seem to have those little hangy downs. I don't know what you call them. Little limbs that hang down. So they have to be little hangy downs. There. And you put as many or as few of those in there as you want. Now, one of the most fantastic things that happens with this technique is reflections. Watch here. When I was a traditional painter, I used to agonize over reflections. In this style of painting, it's one of the easiest things that we do. Just easy. Pull straight down and go across. But it needs to come straight down. Straight down. And then very gently go across, like so. We go back to our brush. It had the grassy colors on it, sap green, yellows, all the yellows. Just mix them on the brush, though. Okay, let's go up in here. And maybe there's look at there. Yep, you're right. Just a nice little area back here. Something like that. There, and all we're doing is just tapping. No big surprises here, just tapping. But follow the lay of the land. It's most important. You decide where it's at and how you want it to be. Okay, maybe over here it comes this direction. I don't know. It's up to you. You make the big decision. We just show you how, but you make the decisions. When you have this much power, you have to make big decisions. Oh, let's have some fun here. We'll take a little bit of liquid white. Let's put in just a little water, right? A little water line right into here. There. See, just sort of let that just go right around in there, wherever you want it. Wherever. There. The other side over here, I have a little one right in here. But I want this one to look like it sort of curves around. So just do that like that. And I'll put it in there first, and then I'll put the dark so you can see it behind it. Pull a little reflection down, go across. Then all we have to do is put a little highlight on there. There we are. Then come back, our little water line. Drop that in. We take our fan brush, put a little dark green on it, and we can add just a few little highlights on some of these evergreens. Not a great deal. Want to keep them quite dark. Something like so. Just a few. Let's go on the other side and give it a few. And I think with that, we just about have a finished painting. I really hope you try this one, because as I said at the beginning, this is a very simple painting that you can do even if you've never painted before. So from all of us here, I'd like to wish you happy painting, and God bless, my friend. Hi, certainly glad to see you today. You ready to do a fantastic little painting? Tell you what, let's start out and have them run all the colors across the screen that you need to paint along with us. While they're doing that, let me show you what I've got done up here today. I have my standard old canvas up here. It says a pre-stretched double prime canvas, and I've covered it with just a thin, even coat of liquid white from top to bottom, and it's ready to go. So let's just do a fantastic little painting together and just have a good time. Today, let's start with a very small amount. Oh, let's use a little bit of the Indian yellow. Not much, just a little. On the 2-inch brush. There we go. Just tap a little into the bristles. All right, let's go right up here. Let's just start right along in here. I think the horizon's going to be somewhere in this area. And it doesn't really matter. And we'll just blend it upward using little crisscross strokes. And that way it's mixing with the liquid white that's on the canvas. And automatically it'll blend and get lighter and very smooth. And there, a little bit more of the Indian yellow. And let's have a little bit down in this direction. Shoot, maybe we'll have a little water in here. You know me, I love water. So we'll just put a little bit of this right down into where we know there's going to be some water. There. Something about like that. This is a very simple little painting. I think you'll like it. I think you'll like this one. All right, let me wash the old brush. And we wash our brush in odorless paint thinner. And as I've mentioned before, I really suggest you use odorless thinner. Just beat the devil out of it. If you don't use odorless thinner, you're going to be working by yourself. And your popularity around the home front's going to go down about 15 points. Here we go. I'm going to take a little bit of the Midnight Black. Just Midnight Black on the 2-inch brush. And let's go up in here and very gently, still using our little crisscross strokes, let's just put a little bit of that right up in here. It too will mix with the liquid white and you get those beautiful, beautiful values there. It just begins blending. There. Something about like that. And we'll just put it down to about that area, and then we'll come back with a clean brush and blend it in a second. Okay, now then, a little bit into the water. And if we're going to have water, let's just do this. Pull from the outside in. I'm still using nothing but just black. Just Midnight Black. There, to about there. And anything that we don't want to be water, we'll just put land right over it. As you know, if you've painted with us before, we don't make mistakes. We have happy accidents. And by that, I just mean that after a while, you begin to learn to work with anything that happens. We really don't make mistakes. You learn to use what happens. And that's when you truly, truly experience the joy of painting, because there's no fear of this canvas. And with this style of painting, that will happen very rapidly. There. A little bit of practice, just sort of a dream in your mind of what you want to paint. And off you go. Okay, let's wash the old brush again. Just wash the brush. Shake off the excess. And we're in trouble again. Now, when you do this at home, they make such a little thing. It's called a brush beater rack that goes down to the bottom of a wastebasket. And you can shake the brush inside of the basket, then beat that rack. And it contains all this, because you certainly don't want to do that in your living room. As I say, you'll change your decor in a second. Now then, clean, dry brush, and it needs to be very dry. We just begin blending where these two colors come together. And you want to blend it until you can't tell where one color starts and the next color stops. And sometimes to do that, you need to sort of step back and take a look-see at your painting. When you're right up against it, it's very, very difficult to tell what you're doing. Step back across the room, get your glass of iced tea, sit down maybe and look at your painting for a minute or two. And then you can tell what you have. A lot of times people write and ask me how I develop all these paintings, because when this series is over, there'll be nearly 300 paintings. There will be 300 paintings. And one of the ways, as crazy as it sounds, a lot of times I'll start with just a blank canvas and sit and stare at it and begin visualizing things. And as you put each little thing on there, step back and look at it and think about it. And you learn to compose that way. There, tell you what, let's have some fun. I'm going to take some black, alizarin crimson mixed together. Just black and alizarin. And that'll make a nice lavender-like color. There. Pull it out very flat, flat as you can get it. Cut across and get that little roll of paint, and it should live right at the edge of your blade. I mean, it's right out on the very edge, okay? Maybe in our world, come right up in here. Maybe there's a little, way back in there's a little hill or a little mountain that lives way back right there. And all we're looking for is a nice shape on top. There. We're really not concerned with the bottom of it at this point. Something maybe like that. This one's going to be far, far away. So we're not looking for a lot of detail. We're looking for a basic shape, and that's all. And underneath it, since this is water, there's going to be some reflection. So you can just reflect it right into the water while you have that color on your knife. Okay. And I'm really, as you can probably hear, I'm rubbing quite hard with a knife. I want to literally push this paint right into the fabric. Just as my son Steve says, just sort of mush it in there. That's probably not a word, but everybody understands what he means when he says that. Just mush it in there. All right. Now then, with the old 2-inch brush here, just sort of blend that out. Just blend it out. And you can actually make it look like highlights and shadows just by using brush strokes in here. There we go. There. Brush strokes, that's the name of our newsletter. There. We do a lot of interesting articles in that. I really enjoy writing for it. Now then, where our reflections are, just pull that straight down. Straight down. See there? And instantly, we have reflections. Go across. And that's all there is to it. Reflections used to drive me crazy when I was a traditional painter. And in this style of painting, it may very well be one of the easiest things that we do. And you can take a little of the dark paint and here and there maybe just put in the indication of some little shadows and highlights without really doing a great deal. If you put too much detail in here, it's going to destroy that illusion of distance in your painting. And we want it to look like it's far, far away back here. But just rub it with a knife. There. See? And you can just let that just blend anywhere that you want it. It gives the indication without a lot of detail. Sometimes it's neat to take just a little touch of the dark sienna white, not much white, and right down here at the bottom, just really scrub in a little bit of that. Make it look like there's a little dirt down at the bottom of it. But that's up to you. You may not want to put that in. Strictly up to you. I sort of like it. It changes this flavor a little bit. There. All right. Yeah, we can take a little bit of the liquid white and put it out here on the palette and pull it out very flat. Just as flat as we can get it. And then cut across, just like that. And we can go up in here and just begin cutting in the indication of a little water line. There we go. Now, if you make these and they're too thick or you don't like them, if you just take the knife and rub them very hard, they'll just basically disappear right into the color that's on the canvas. And I tell you little things like that in case you ever make it. A lot of people get worried that they've made a mistake. That's not a mistake. All you do is just rub it a little more. Don't worry about it. There's nothing to fear on this piece of canvas. The absolute worst thing that can happen is that you enjoy it. It's fun. Painting should be fun. If painting doesn't make you happy, then you're doing the wrong thing. And if you're fortunate enough, as I have been, to take something that you love as much as this and learn how to do it for a living and be fortunate enough to be successful at it, my God, the world's a great place then. Tell you what, we'll just use this old 2-inch brush. It's dirty here. Let's take a little black, a little Van Dyke brown, a little touch of the Prussian blue. We need some crimson too. Shoot, might as well put a little sap green in there. Just all the dark colors basically. Tap a little bit of that color into the brush. We're just pushing and tapping the old 2-inch. Let's go up here. Maybe in our world there lives, yep, does now. Maybe there's some nice little things that live right along in here. And all we're looking for at this point are some very, very basic little shapes. Maybe there's a tree that lives right here. And just happy little tree. Hangs out here and looks back at the mountain that's in the distance. Well, maybe this is a big tree. Seems to be growing on us, but that's all right. That's all right. We can have any size tree in our world that we want. Got a little bigger than I thought it would. That's fine. There. Okay. Now while we have this dark color on here, let's just pop in a little reflection. We can do that. We're just pulling straight down. But it's important that these lines go straight down. And then very lightly, 2 hairs and some air, just go across. And sometimes, let me see here. We had black and blue, little brown, crimson, little sap green, I think. Something like that. Let me wipe off the old knife here. I just wipe the knife on a paper towel just to clean it. We use a fan brush. Maybe we'll put a little evergreen tree in there. I like little evergreens, and they're a lot of fun to do. And they work so nice. Okay, load both sides of the brush with a lot of paint. Okay, let's go up in here. And maybe, big decision time, maybe our little evergreen lives right there. Take the corner of the brush and just touch. And then as you work down the tree, touch harder. And you're pushing the bristles downward. Make them bend downward. And as you go down the tree, push harder and harder. And that makes the tree get wider and wider. And it almost happens automatically. With a little practice, you'd be surprised how easy it is to make something like an evergreen tree. There. That's all there is to it. Now we can take that same color, go into a little bit of the cad yellow, and we have instant green, because there's blue in there, and black, and both of them, when mixed with yellow, make green. And we can highlight that little tree with the same old brush, no problem. There. And then a cute little tree, and you can do that. All right. Let's have a tree trunk in there. We'll take some paint thinner, a little bit of the Van Dyke brown, or whatever color you would like for your trunk to be. I thought today brown would be nice. And let's come right along in here and this old tree seems to be leaning over, so we'll make its trunk lean over too. That looks funny if you got a straight trunk and a crooked tree, so we'll have them both crookedy. And put a few little arms and limbs on it. We're going to put some leaves out here, so most of this will be covered up, but a little of it will show. There. And you can take the brush and pull it through a little bit of white or liquid white, just some light color, and run right down his edge like that, and give him a highlight, that easy. And just sort of blend him back. Now you got a light side and a dark side to your tree. Well, I tell you what, we're into using old dirty brushes. We'll use that same old brush today. Go right into a little bit of the yellow, little yellow ochre. Here and there we're going to touch a little bit of the bright red. And the bright red is used as a duller. It dulls the green down. Okay, see that little bit of paint there? That's what we're looking for. Just push it. Okay. Now then, using just the corner of the brush, or you could do this with one of the round brushes, or the oval brush works very well for this too. Beautifully. Now then, let's just tap in some nice little highlights on this tree. I sort of like this old 2-inch brush. I like it. And if you're demonstrating for people, and that's really a lot of fun to demonstrate for people, use this old big brush, because they're just not used to seeing that's this much detail done with a brush the size of something you probably painted the barn with last week. It really grabs people's attention. There. Maybe, well, I got that going. Maybe, yeah, we'll have another little tree that lives right there. You just sort of pick them out. They live right in there. All you got to do is just find them. There. Okay. Maybe there's a little touch back in here. I don't want much back here. Just a little, just to indicate. Now another way of making a lot of beautiful little bushes, we'll use the 1-inch brush, put some liquid white on it, and the liquid white is only to thin the other color. Be right back. Let me get a little green here. There. Pull this in one direction. One direction. Look at the end of it. A lot of paint in there. A lot of paint. But by pulling it in one direction, you round one corner. Turn it over, and that rounded corner goes to the top. Let's go right up here. Now, with a rounded corner up, touch and just push gently upward. It's a very gentle push. You do not have to push hard. There we go. And that's all there is to it. You can make some of the most gorgeous, lacy looking little bushes. Do one at a time. Don't get greedy. One at a time. One at a time. And that way they will look layered. One's on top of the other. There. Okay. Something about like so for right now. And then we can take our liquid white, and I'm going to put at least a little touch of, we'll use a little blue, not much blue, tiniest little bit of Prussian blue and black. I want a gray color. Maybe, tell you what, a little dark sand in there too. Oh, that's nice. That's what I'm looking for. Tiniest little bit of color on there. And we'll just make the indication of land using nothing but that. Allow it to pick up some of that color that's already on the canvas, and just let them blend together. And it's a very simple way of making a nice little area that looks like land without doing a whole bunch. And with a clean knife, you can just take and scrape in some little trunks and sticks and stems and just all kinds of little things that live in the woods. There they are. Something like so, wherever you want them. And then, tell you what, I'm going to take a little bit of the liquid clear. Get a little liquid clear. To that, I'm going to add titanium white and midnight black. I want to make a nice thin, that's the key word, thin gray color. But it's very thin. Okay, let me lay that up there. Clean off the old knife. Now, today let's use a filbert brush. Okay, I'm going to go right through the midnight black, load both sides full of color, just like so. Now we walk right over in here, and I'm going to take and pull one side through that thin light color we made. So we have dark on one side, light on the other. Now watch. We can come up in here, and with one stroke, we can put the indication of a lot of little stones and rocks and things that are happening right back in here. But that way it'll make the highlight and the shadow in one stroke. Then you need to come back with the color used and just sort of go around the edges and clean the edges of all that up. There. All right. let's get crazy today. Let's go back into our dark color. Yeah, let's do this. What the heck? Since I say anything that you don't want in here in the way of water, we'll just cover it up. Maybe this comes, let's go all the way across. Now this we can just fill in any old way. You could fill this in with a paint roller. It doesn't make any difference. We're just putting color on the canvas. If you're into using the black gesso, like I am, I love that stuff. You could actually have done all this with the black gesso, and it'd been that much easier. There. Okay, I really like that black gesso. We use it so much. I could just about do a whole series with nothing but black gesso. Shoot, you know what we need? You know me and my big trees. Yep. Let's have another big old tree that lives right here. All right. There. Maybe this big old tree just keeps climbing right on up. And this is your world, so you decide where your tree lives. Sometimes they just keep growing till they get clean on out of sight. Maybe we'll do that. What the heck? Let's just have one that goes right on off the canvas. And all we're doing here is just putting in some dark color so our highlights will show when we drop them on. Just lay in a basic shape, and all I'm using is the corner of the brush, just the corner of the brush. Now a little black, run out of color. Crimson, sap green, little blue, little brown. Maybe right there. Yep, you're right. We'll just have a happy little bush. He lives there. But I want one over here too. I don't want this side left out. He lives right there. But isn't that neat how you can just close that in? That easy. All right. Now then, we need a tree trunk over here. Let's take a little Van Dyke brown, and just using the side of the knife, you can drop in a nice little trunk. That easy. That easy. Firm up the other side. He needs a friend. You know me. I'm fanatical about people having friends, and even trees need a friend. And painting has allowed me to meet so many people and make so many friends. That's probably the most rewarding part of this whole thing, is all the friends that we've made traveling all over the country and people watching the shows. All right, let's take a little white, a little dark sienna, not much. Pull it out flat. I'm cut off a little roll of paint. Now I'm going to touch and just give it a little round pull. And let me exaggerate. I'm going, but very, very gently. There, we'll do the other one. Something like that. And just let it go right on up. Okay, we go back to our brush that has the, has some nice grassy colors on it. We were working on the other side. And let's put some highlights on this tree. This would be a fantastic tree for one of my little creatures to live in. I got to show you one of my creatures. Here recently, my son Steve, who I'm sure you've seen on some of the other series, came to Florida to visit me. And I had the opportunity to introduce him to a couple of my little squirrels. And Steve had never had a squirrel set on him before. So it was, he's a little nervous about having this little tree urchin run all over his body. But he sat and watched for a little while, and pretty soon Steve was sure that he could handle it. But aren't these the cutest little devils? Now you saw these in earlier series, this little squirrel here, when he was just a tiny, tiny little baby. And now he's grown up and we've turned him loose, and he moved far away. In fact, when I open my back door, I can look right up into his nest. There's a tree limb that comes right over my back door, and these two little brothers built a nest literally right over the back door, so they can tell anytime anybody comes out, and hopefully they'll have a nut with them when they come out to to feed them. I'm just putting some leaves on this tree while you're watching Steve there. Okay, now then, we go back into the liquid white and through some color. Maybe we'll get a little yellow ochre. Sometimes it's fun to tip it. There, I'll do it this way. Tip it with a little red. And then we can make a bush here that has red flowers in one stroke. There we go. A little bit more over in here. See, and just let those little rascals, they just live right here in your brush. Just got to sort of push them out. There we go. Let's go on the other side and give it a few. Don't want that side left out. There. But just push and turn the brush to shape your individual bush or tree. Don't just hit them all in one direction, because the leaves and the limbs hang every which way. And change the flavor of the paint, the color, every so often. Then you can just put all kinds of little things in there. And put as many or as few as you want in your world. Sometimes it's fun. Watch here. We'll take a little brown, a little Van Dyke, a little dark sienna, mixed together. Do something like this. Then we'll come back with a little touch of the brown and white. Barely grazing. Just let it graze. See? And you can just, we'll turn it into a nice little path that comes through there. Back to our brush. It has the greens and stuff on it. We come back and we tap in some little grassy areas that live right down here at the bottom of these bushes. Just tapping. Once again, change your flavor every so often. You can add at least a little touch of titanium white. That'll brighten it up. There. And if you have trouble making this stick, add the least little touch of liquid white or paint thinner. If you don't want to change the color, use paint thinner, but very, very little of it. I can't say that enough. Very little of it. Work in layers, just like you did with the bushes. Other side, we'll put some over here. There we go. All kinds of little things. There. All right. So I say every once in a while, just sort of change the flavor and it'll stand out and look like a whole little different hill there. And that easy, you can make all kinds of little things. We'll put a few little quick stones in there using it. Black with a thin black on top, the thin gray. And you can just go in here and pop in indication of some little stones that live right along the bank. That easy. Maybe we'll put a big one right there. And there's one. Cover up his little foots. Take a knife, clean up the edges, and shoot, you about have a finished painting. Something like that. I really hope you've enjoyed this one. It's a lot of fun. Give it a try. And from all of us here, I'd like to wish you happy painting, and God bless, my friend. Hi, welcome back. Certainly glad to see you today. I thought today we'd do something that's a little bit different. So let's start out and have them run all the colors across the screen that you need to paint along with us. While they're doing that, let me show you this crazy thing I've got going up here today. I'm back to my good old black gesso. I love that black gesso. Taking a regular 18 by 24 inch canvas or any size that you want. And I've just taken a paper towel with black gesso and just sort of daubed all over like that and just sort of put a design in here. And I know it looks like a bomb went off in there, but hopefully it'll look better before it's over with. Allow the black gesso to dry completely. Now, all of it that has the black gesso in it, I've covered with a thin coat of liquid clear. And over that, I've put a mixture of Van Dyke brown, sap green, and a little bit of Prussian blue, not much blue. And up here it just has liquid white. And when you caught me, I was just finishing up with a little bit of this dark color that goes right over the black gesso. And all you need is just a thin, even coat. The reason we put the liquid clear on there first is because that way you can put a very thin coat. It's almost like a glaze over the black. If you just try to put solid color on there, you're going to put so much paint that when you put a little white on there, it's almost too bright. So this allows you to do very gentle little things. All right, now just keep using that same old dirty brush and go into a small amount. Let's use a little tiny bit of the phthalo blue, not much, but right on that dirty brush. So I'm just going to mix it with that same color that's on the bottom of the canvas. Don't need much. And let's go right up here in the sky and see what we have. There, just a little color, something like that. So we have phthalo blue with the same colors that we have on the bottom here. And we just sort of let it blend together. About like that. We'll come back with a clean brush and blend that a little more. But the color is transparent enough that the black gesso things come through, and it'll give that illusion of a lot of little things happening in the background without you hardly doing a thing. There. This black gesso may be one of the neatest things that I've ever invented. I really hope you like it. It has just about become a standard now in the art world. And it was, as they say, you saw it first right here on The Joy of Painting. All right, we'll just bring that right on down. Now let's have some fun. And I'm going to take a clean brush, and I have several of each one going, so I don't have to spend all of my time just washing brushes. I just want to blend this out till it's nice and soft. And all it's doing is mixing with the liquid white that's on the canvas and blending. And you can blend this to any degree of softness that you want. All right, that's about all we need right now. There. The only thing that I'm really sure of in this painting is that I'm going to have a big mass of trees right here in this very dark area. Other than that, I don't really care. You really don't have to make a lot of decisions with this. You just have a general idea of what you want. You need to know the time of year and the time of day for light. And of course, if you're doing a winter scene, you want it to look a little cold, summer scene, vice versa, whatever. Without cleaning that brush, I'm going to go right into a small amount of the dark sienna. So I still have all that bottom color and the sky color, and I just added dark sienna right onto it. And let's go up in here and just begin picking out some little background things. I don't want a lot of detail because it's too far away. There, just a few little things that are way back in the distance there. There. Sometimes it's sort of nice to take your brush and put it up here and just bend it sideways. And it'll make the indication of little trees that have little arms sticking out. But that easy. Maybe there's another one there, wherever you think they should be. And all you're doing is just bending the brush. We'll give them a little friend right in there. However many you want. It's up to you. And I don't want to cover up all those little things made by the black gesso that are showing through, because to me, those are very attractive, very pretty. There. I want that to be very soft and extremely misty. You can add a little titanium white to your brush once in a while. Very, very little. Smallest amount. Smallest amount. And it'll look just like mist laying back here. There. Something like so. Then we can add a few more darker bushes right in the foreground, right over the top of the mist. And that mist will act as a separator. It'll keep them apart. There we go. And there's not a great deal of paint on here. There really and truly is a lot of different colors, but there's not a great deal of paint. If you was to scrape that very hard, you'd get very little off of it. Okay, back to our dark sienna. Let's go on the other side and do a little bit over in here too. We don't want this one left out. Maybe over here there's one of those sideways trees. And I don't want them to be very distinct. If they're real distinct, you'll lose that illusion of distance. We'll do things that are very distinct in the foreground. Back here, we only want suggestions. There. Once again, maybe the least little touch of that titanium to create a misty area. Back to some of our darker colors. There we go. Just tap in the indication of some little distant bushes and things that are let's go, let me find a knife here. We mix up some color. Let's take some black, a little Prussian blue, some Van Dyke brown, a little sap green. Same basic colors that we had before. All right, let me wipe off the old knife. But the predominant color here is black. Most of it is black. We put the other ones in there just to flavor it a little bit. I'm going to just load the brush by tapping it right into the color. Just tap it. Let's go right up in here. You have to make some big decisions using just the corner of the brush. Now let's begin just laying in all kinds of very basic little patterns. This is going to be a big clump of trees back here, I think. So we'll start laying in some very basic little shapes. And because we have that black gesso in there, we have to do very little, very, very little in the way of putting in our darks. They're already there. In fact, the worst thing you can do is cover all that up. All those little light areas in there will look like light coming right through the tree. That's the reason I put that on with a paper towel rather than a brush. If you put it on with a brush, you just have solid color. And I'm really looking for these little light areas. It'll drive people crazy if they don't know how you did that. That's our secret. Don't you tell them. Just between you and I. There we go. Now, down in here, I want that to be quite dark. Like so. Well, that'd be a fantastic place for one of my little critters to live. In the last show, I showed you Steve being introduced to one of my little squirrels. Now, Steve had never played with a squirrel before. I'm going to show you him again while I'm doing this. I'm just going to be putting in some of this little dark area, and we'll show you here. This is in my backyard in Florida, and Steve finally got enough nerve up to let the little squirrel jump on him. There. But isn't he the cutest little devil? I mean the squirrel. Steve's a little big to be cute. When this was made, Steve is, what's Steve? 24 now. He's 24. Little short guy. He's 6'5". He calls me Shorty. Now then, let's take our liner brush, go into some paint thinner, and we'll take a little brown, grab a little white there too. There, nice color. A little brown, a little white. Van Dyke and dark sienna both mixed in here. Hope you enjoy seeing those little critters. Okay, just pull that to a nice point. And let's go back in here. And here, and there, and there, and here. Let's put the indication of a few little limbs, sticks, trunks, twigs, whatever, that live back in here. Now, I don't want them to be real distinct, but enough that they stand out. There. Maybe add a little more white to this one. There we go. A little more paint thinner. Let's have a nice one. Yep, it is right there. And let your hand wiggle and jiggle and make all those little crazy things. I have people write and they tell me they can't paint because their hand shakes a little. Shoot, you have an advantage. Use it. There's no reason that one can't paint. No reason. I have one lady who paints with us, lives in the Boston area, and she's totally blind. And she paints along with us, just from listening. That's one fantastic lady. Takes a lot of nerve to do that. And she does it very well. I've seen some of her paintings, and you wouldn't believe what she's doing. Would not believe. So if she can do that, the rest of us don't have any excuse. There. This one's got a little more brown, and it doesn't matter. I just happen to hit a little more. However you want them. There. Now then, let's take, this brush doesn't have too much on it, we'll just use it. Let's have a little bit of the yellow ochre. Be right back. I'm going to get a little dark sienna, put it, maybe a little more. There. Cat yellow, yellow ochre. We'll use some Indian yellow for it, so with it, and even some of the bright red. Just load a little bit of color. Just push, so you can see how that's, see that little ridge right there? There's one just like it on the bristles, and that's what we're going to use. And we can come in here and very lightly. I don't want a lot of color back here. Oh, that's perfect. That is perfect. Just a little. Just a little. Don't overkill. Want just enough to make you stand out a little. Want this to be a very subdued, quiet painting back here in the back. A little bit more of the dark sienna, yellow ochre, a little Indian yellow in there. There. See how that works. But I'm using just the corner of the brush. I'm not using the entire brush. And this will work with a 1-inch brush, with either one of the round brushes. The oval brush, the 1-inch oval brush, will do it just as good. Just whatever your preference is. Practice a little bit with all of them and find the one that works the best for you. And then that's the right brush for the job. There. There we go. There we go. I love to do little paintings like this, especially with this black gesso. It just makes it so easy. So easy. There. But you've already got a whole clump of trees there. That easy. All right. Now maybe, let's see, I'm going to add the least little touch of the bright red to that. We need a little sparkler in there. A little sparkler, but I don't want it too bright. Maybe even then go into the least little touch of the titanium white. And I'm going to come right in here. Oh, there's a beautiful little bush. He lives right along in here. Just pick him out. There he is. There he is. Darker, darker, darker down toward the base. Down toward the bottom. Don't let him get too bright on you. There. Highlight him with a little touch of the yellow ochre. Just to change his flavor a little. I see another one right there. See, these little things that you just drop in at random, all of a sudden begin, they look like little things back in there. You're not too concerned when you first start. You just sort of let them go wherever. But then as you begin painting, all these little things that were happy accidents turn into beautiful little things. Don't fight them. Learn to enjoy them. Let them happen. Well, I'll tell you what. How about, let's do this. Maybe. Yep, you're right. Look at here. Maybe there's a nice little grassy area that lives right along in there. What a gorgeous place to have a little grassy area. Back underneath all these beautiful trees. There. Okay. And just think about the way you want the land to go here. Oh, there got a little brighter. See, that'll look like a whole different plane. Just by making it a little brighter. Hit a little more of the yellow ochre in that one. Just sort of vary your colors back and forth. Shoot. It's unreal what you can do. Absolutely unreal. Let me get my liner brush here. Have a little bit of brown on it. Just a little bit of the Van Dyke. Not much, just a little. I want to put a few little sticks and twigs back here too. Need a little more thinner. If it doesn't go real easy, real smooth, add a little thinner. There we go. Some of them very light, can't hardly see them. Other ones a little darker. All right, all right. A few over in here. Okay, touch more of the color. But just wherever you want them. Now, I see something. Let me find a fan brush. There. Dip that into a little bit of the liquid white and then go into titanium white. And I'll be right back. I'm going to get the least little touch of phthalo blue and put in there. Least, tiny little bit. It's so strong. So strong. I see something here. It's just, I have to do this. Watch here. I have to do this. Watch. Over. It's just a perfect place for a little waterfall to just sort of sneak out from behind there, come crashing down. And it splashes right along in there. See it? See it? There it is. And it just sort of starts from there and begins working out. Again, I see all kind of things. Now watch. Look, pull down, straight down, and it's going to pick up that color that's underneath. There it comes. Now, go across. Back to our fan brush that has that color on it. and very lightly, just grazing the surface. Just make the water slick and shiny. That easy. There. Isn't that fantastic? You can do that. That easy. That easy. Now we need a little something over here to contain it. Because we have that black gesso underneath, we don't even have to put anything on there. It'll just go right in. Brighten it up with a little touch of yellow so you can see it a little better. There we go. Now it shows up. Now watch you. Okay, we'll use a little black and Van Dyke brown mixed together. I need to mix up. I'm going to take some liquid white, put it right out here. Just a little bit of the liquid white. And to that, mix some dark sienna and Van Dyke brown. I want to make a very thin brown color. All right. Okay, let me wash off the old knife there. We pull this brush through black and brown, then half of it through that thin color we made. And let's have, right in here, yeah, just a bunch of little stones. Just a bunch of little stones live right in there. There they are. But you can make both sides of the stones in one stroke just by doing that. There. And, of course, the water's got to sneak right over there. Got to make those little noises. Just doesn't work without those little noises. And back to another brush. And let's pull this down. I'll tell you what, maybe this comes right on around here. I don't know. Where do you want it to go? In your world, you decide. Maybe it comes right on around, and it's mixing with the color that's on the canvas. And automatically you get all these beautiful shades and hues. Just very lightly go across. We have instant reflections there. And I don't want this to be too bright. I want it to stay sort of subdued in this particular little painting. I feel it would be quite dark. Just let it just sort of skim across there. All right. Now then, let's finish up some little grassy areas right in. Just sort of let them flow back here. Farther back. Wherever you want them. Here and there, I'm going to touch the least little bit of the titanium white. So it looks like there's a little light zinging through there, but not much. Not much. If you use much, it'll ruin the illusion. Too much. There. See there, though, how you can make all those little hills? There we go. Okay. But once again, there's not a great deal of paint on the canvas because you have the black gesso on there. That dark color is already in, so you don't have to apply very much paint. It takes very little color to actually do this. Very little color. And maybe, let's really get crazy here. Let's just cut off our little stream. It comes right across here. Got to have something to contain it. There it is. Okay. Now then. Let's take a brush that's got a little of that dark color on it. And maybe right in here tap in a few little things. We'll have a little tree right there. Just a little tree. Give him a little trunk. Just some brown and white on the liner brush. There we go. Just brown and white thinned with paint thinner. A few little arms here and there. We can come back. Put a little highlight on there. Just a little. All right. So now we have a little tree that lives right there. Right about there. All right. Let's get crazy. You know me. You know me. Let's take some Van Dyke brown, a little black. Little black, little crimson. Well, a little crimson in there too, yeah. In my world, here goes our beautiful trees back here. Be brave. This is your bravery test. We'll just have us a big tree that lives right there. We'll give him a friend. Have 2 big trees. Just drop those rascals right in there. There. Maybe they sit out here on a big rock. Big old rock that lives here on the edge of the water. Maybe it's all been washed away except that. And we take a little white, a little dark sienna, a little touch of the Van Dyke. Get us a small roll of paint. And then just touch, just graze. Something like that. Just let it graze. Work right down like that. Allowing the paint to break. No pressure. Absolutely no pressure. Little Prussian blue and white. And on the one side here we can put a little blue. Makes a little reflected light on there. Let's have some fun here. We got a minute or so left. I'm going to take my filbert brush and turn this into great big stones that are all around the edge of this. There we are. Just, here they go. Bloom, bloom, bloom. However many you want. However many you want. There. But see how you can just give the illusion that there's all kind of stones and rocks down here at the base of this couple of old trees. That's all you have to do. Take our fan brush, a little bit of that thin paint on it. Clean up the edges. Looks like a little water lines around the bottom. There. Something like so. Now then, let's go up here and put some stuff on this big old tree. Let's put a few little limbs on the bottom. Then on the top, we'll just put in some nice leaves. Gotta have a few little limbs down here though. Here's an old limb that comes off and goes every which wiggledy way. Like that. Maybe there's one on this one. And you can take a little bit of that thin brown and white. Actually, you could double load this little brush and do this all in one stroke. However, put a few little things here and there and there and here. And here's one that comes out. Maybe it comes around in front. Another one here, another one there. There. On the top, maybe those limbs, maybe they still have some leaves on them. So we'll take a little dark paint here on the old 2-inch brush and just put the indication of some nice foliage that lives right up here. Oh, there goes my beautiful tree I worked so hard on in the background. But we know it's there. No big deal. We know it's there. There. You know, if you have time, I love to look at photographs of paintings that people have done from watching the show. So if you have time, drop us a line. We'd love to hear from you. And we'd love to see the paintings. And as time permits, ever so often we put them together on a little board and we like to show them to you. So drop us a line. Let us see what you're doing and let us hear about the successes that are going on in your life. There, a little touch of paint thinner. I want to thin down. Oh, use that same dirty brush and go into a little bright red. That'll make a very dirty red color. Very dull. All right. Maybe we'll highlight the tree with that. Oh, I like that. That's not very bright. It's just enough so it shows up against the trees that are in the background. Just a little right in there. But think about the shape. Don't just hit it random. I like it. I like paintings that aren't real bright, but they're a little harder to do than paintings that are extremely bright. Now, when you're doing yours at home, you do it in any color that you want. Any color that you want, because this will work if you've done it in bright greens or whatever. It really doesn't matter. It's an individual thing. There. Once in a while, I just like to use these colors that are a lot more muted. All right. Something about like that. And shoot, we can take the old liner brush, put a few little sticks here and there and there and here, and we're about to the point of having a finished painting. You could take a little touch of the blue and the white, make that shadow come right on down to really make it interesting, right across the rocks. And I think with that, we'll call that a finished painting. I hope you've enjoyed it. Try the black gesso and let me know how it works for you. From all of us here, happy painting, and God bless, my friend. Hi, welcome back. Certainly glad you could join us today, because I thought today we'd do something that's a little different, and I believe you're really going to enjoy this one. So let's start out and have them run all the colors across the screen that you need to paint along with us, and they'll come right about there. While they are doing that, let me show you what I've got done up here. Today I have my standard old pre-stretched canvas, and I've taken a little bit of black gesso, and I've painted the whole bottom black, and up here I've just put a few designs. So I know there's going to be some trees up in here, and a sky. Other than that, I don't really care today. And today we're going to cover the part that's black here with a mixture of phthalo blue and phthalo green mixed with liquid clear. Now the clear it just makes it very, very thin, and you can cover this easily. And up here we just have liquid white, as we normally do. And you caught me sort of putting this on. But one of the neat things about this is you're putting on this thin paint. This is just phthalo blue and phthalo green. Just sort of let it go right on up into the sky area here. And it's a super easy, nice way of making a beautiful little sky that quick. So we start out, and already we have our sky just about done. Just by doing something like that. And we just let it blend right on down. And that's about all the sky we're going to need for this particular little painting. I think I'm just going to have a very plain sky in it. And we'll work on some pretty things in here. What the heck? Today's such a fantastic day here. I thought we'd just do a little painting that really makes you feel good when you paint it, and when you look at it, and when all your friends have come and view what you've done. There. Just really scrubbing that on. But it is quite thin, and you might just touch it and make sure that everywhere you touch it, you get a little bit of blue on your finger, the blue-green color. And don't allow this to dry before you start. You want this to stay wet. We only allow the black gesso to dry. This remains wet. Okay, let me wash off the old brush here. And if you painted with us before, you know that's the fun part of this whole technique. Just washing the brush. Just washing the brush. And covering the whole studio. When I leave here, they just bring in a bulldozer and clean everything out. Okay. Tell you what, today let's have some real fun. Let me clean off this thin paint, get it out of our way, because we're going to use a very thick paint. We'll just set it up here. I may use it later. All right, now then let's start with midnight black. Just plain old midnight black. Pull it out very flat, take the knife, cut across, and get a little roll of paint. It should live right on the edge of the blade. Come right up in here. Maybe we'll have a big mountain today, and it lives right there. And let's just put the top of the mountain in. There it is. Something about like so. And I'll take a little titanium white, pull it out the same way, and I want to come back in here and just put the indication of a little highlight on here. Just titanium white. And no pressure. Barely touching it. Just let it graze that. And I'll mix up a little bit of, we'll use a little phthalo blue and white. What the heck, that's a nice color. This is going to be a very bright little painting. Once again, our little roll of paint. See, when you do that, pull that flat and just sort of cut across. Small roll of paint. And we'll come back in here and we'll put a few little indication of some shadows. I don't want a lot in here. It's too far away. but just enough to create that illusion. Boy, we got a floating mountain up there now. Now we can take, I want to put a lot of snow right in here. So we'll take just titanium white and come right across. Zoop. Got to make those little noises though. Just come right across. Be brave. Be brave. Right up here in the sky. Just drop this in. And you can leave little these areas showing through. Let the paint break. Allow some of those little areas to show through. Here I've used a little of that shadow color, phthalo blue and white, so it look like a little shadow right along that edge. And back to my black, and we begin putting in something to hold this up. We'll put in there, like that. And tell you what, maybe, yep, right there. There we go. Just put in all kinds of little things. Let them fade right down into nothing, basically. And I'll tell you what, let's do, yeah, right in here. We'll have all kinds of little things that just live there. Because we have some black gesso here. We know there's going to be a tree. So I'm not too worried about putting a lot of stuff in there. We're just going to have some little stones that live in there. Something maybe like that. Like that. Then over in here, the least little touch of the titanium white. So we can separate all these little stones and rocks and all these beautiful little things that are happening up here in this mountain. No pressure, no pressure. Let it float. Just let it float. Little touch of the phthalo blue and white. Give us a little shadow indication. And I really don't want a lot. I want to keep this quite dark. Just a little here and there. Something like that. That's a rough looking mountain already. And in here, maybe this comes right on down, we don't know, wherever. Take a little bit of my shadow color, the blue and white again, and very gently put a little touch of it, just coming down the side of this mountain, like that. Little touch right up in there. Now, let's take a nice, clean, and very dry. Be sure it's very dry. 2-inch brush. And I want to create the illusion of mist right down at the base of this. Like that. So we'll just tap. Be sure to follow the angles. Follow those angles. And then very lightly lift it upward. Lift it upward. I want a little misty area down here at the base. And this is the way we create that illusion. That's the way. There, a little bit over in here. Not too much here because we're going to have trees here. We don't really care. Doesn't make much difference over on this side. And maybe, we're having so much fun making mountains. And I've got several letters people want to know how to do mountains that have a lot of rocks in them. So this is a nice way. Maybe there's another rock. It's right there. Just wherever you want to put in some black. And we'll come back with a little touch of highlight color. No pressure. I know you get tired of hearing that. But probably that's the biggest problem that most people have when they're trying to make mountains, is they apply too much pressure and then it just mushes together, as Steve says, my son, and you become a mud mixer. So try to just practice letting it float across there with no pressure whatsoever. No pressure. Now we can bring this area right on up and just sort of let it go right in there like that. Think about angles. Let it play. Let it play. There it goes. And we'll just let it come up in here somewhere. We don't care where it goes. And all this I'm going to just mist right into nothing down here. So we can just go wherever you want it. A little bit showing over here maybe. Now, good, clean, dry brush. And I can't say that enough. If you hit this with a wet brush, you're going to be in agony city and you're going to talk bad about me. And I really want this to work for you. I really want it to work. There. And you can do this. There really are no secrets. There are no secrets here. We try to make this where everyone can do it. And every day Every day I receive letters from fantastic people all over the country, and it's working for them. And that makes all this worthwhile. Just the fact that it works for people. Because it opens new worlds, new doors, things that you never believed you could do. You can. Look at that mountain that you made. And it's so easy. That's a very simple little mountain. But when people see your painting, they'll think you worked for a month trying to do that. Let's take some black, some Prussian blue. I'm going to grab some of this phthalo green. I like phthalo green in trees and stuff. And maybe a little touch of alizarin crimson. I'm going to throw all that in there together. And I mixed up a pretty good pile. We're going to use that color throughout the painting, maybe. I think we'll use it throughout the painting. Let's have a fan brush. And we'll load it full of that dark, dark color. This color should look black on your palette. It should be very, very dark. Very dark. All right. Now then, let's have some little trees that live way back here in the distance, little indications. And we'll put those in just by tapping downward. Just drop them in and sort of tap downward. That's why this misty area right here is so important. Without that little misty area, they would just disappear. So that misty area right now is absolutely your best friend. Take care of it. Treat it like you would any good friend. You care about it. Treat it with respect. There, and it'll always be there when you need it. See? And it's the same here. Maybe a few of these trees you can make out a little more detail. So we use the corner of the brush. There. See that little tree? You knew he was there, didn't you? There we go. Give him a little friend. Maybe this one right here. So you can just pick out a couple here and there that you want to put a little extra detail on. Okay. And we can take another fan brush. I have several of them going. Touch the bottom here with a little of the light color. This is just a little blue and white, but whatever. Just happened to be there. It's a shadow color from the mountains. And lift upward. It'll make it look like little trunks and stuff that are back in there. And a little, once again though, it creates that illusion of a misty area. And as we talked about, that misty area in painting, a lot of times is absolutely your best friend. All right, it's time to get crazy. Let's take the old 2-inch brush, and I put a little bit of that background color on the brush that we made earlier, what we made the evergreens out of, and I'm just going to tap that into my cad yellow, my yellow ochre, Indian yellow, and occasionally some bright red. We'll just vary those colors. Load a little paint right on the brush by tapping. Just tap it. Let's go up in here. Now that we have to make some major decisions already. Look how that stands out against that dark, dark background. Color just comes alive on here. Just absolutely comes alive. I love these black canvases. This black gesso is one of the most fantastic things. It makes your painting life so much easier. It's almost unreal. There. Just tap it. I want it to get darker toward the bottom. So just by working it, tapping it, it'll mix with that color that's underneath, the phthalo blue and the phthalo green, and automatically, it'll get darker and darker in value. There we go. Sometimes I sneak in here and get the least little touch of titanium white. And just, in my mind, the light's going to come through there and just zing right across that little hill. Zoom. And a little bit of white there will make that stand out. Just beautiful. Just beautiful. You ready to get crazy? Okay, let's have some fun today. I'm going to take a little bit of liquid white, and I'm going to go into that thin color that I saved. That's just phthalo blue and phthalo green and liquid clear mixed together. Let me get a little more liquid white here. Didn't get quite enough on my brush. Whew. Isn't that a gorgeous color? Now then, let's go right up in here. You know me, I love water, so today I thought we'd do just something. Look at here. All you got to do though is just work that brush a little bit and just pull it across. and makes all these beautiful little water things. And you could do this with a fan brush. It'll give you a little more detail. Just depends on what you have handy and what you want to use that day. There. And the water's just running along here having a good time. So wonderful day. It is having a super day. And it comes right along here and son of a gun, somebody pull the plug, and off it goes. There. See, it comes straight, and then falls. Just let it fall. But it's mixing with that color underneath, and all of these beautiful tones and values will happen automatically. Maybe we'll have a big waterfall today. I like waterfalls. They're a lot of fun to paint. And people who view your paintings will just absolutely love them. But there's a little liquid clear in there, and that liquid clear makes that slide on there so much easier. Now, I'm going to start at the bottom and pull upward quite firmly. And this will blend it into the color that's already on the canvas there. There we go. And smooth it all out. And while we have that going, I'll just tap the corner of the brush into a little titanium white. And let's begin thinking about all the mist that would happen down here. If you had water falling this far, you would have a lot of mist because it would hit and splash and churn and carry on. Probably make a lot of noise too. But just by tapping with the top corner of the brush, we can create the illusion of little clouds of mist that are floating right down at the base of it here. Something like that. Something like that. There. Now, let's have some fun. I'm gonna take liquid white. Take some Van Dyke Brown and dark sienna both, and mix them with liquid white. I want to make them very, very thin. It's just a thin color. Let me clean the old knife here. Nice thin color. And we'll find a filbert brush. I'm going to run it right through a little bit of the black. And then I'll come up, there we are, put a little bit of brown in there. I want a very dark color. Okay, now we'll go over here. And that thin color, I'm just going to pull one side of the brush through. Yeah, light on one side, dark on the other. Let's go up here now. Maybe there's a lot of little stones and rocks and stuff that live right along here on the edge. They sort of hold the waterfall in so it didn't get away. There we go. And by loading the brush that way, we can make both of these little deals at one time, the highlight and the shadow. And you can put just as many or as few little rocks in your world as you want. Maybe there's some way up in here. I don't know, wherever you think they should live. And sometimes it's even fun. Maybe there's one that lives right out here and the waterfall plays right around him. He has the best view of all of them, maybe except this one. We're not gonna leave him out. So we'll take a little bit of our waterfall color on a fan brush and just clean the edges up on the rocks. There you go. Now we have water that's just coming along and falling right over there and having a fantastic day. Let's go back into our dark tree color. Very dark. Mostly black, Prussian blue, a little crimson, and a lot of phthalo green. Now, let's begin making big decisions. We have a tree that lives right there. Corner of the brush, just the corner. And there we go. There he comes. See, he lives right there in that brush. Just sort of shake him out. Sometimes you have to sort of really scare him out. Give him a little push. That old tree is right there. Right there. And he's got a little friend right there. Down there we don't care. We'll separate that with a little highlight. And maybe there's a big one that goes right on off the canvas. We don't know where it goes. Don't know where it starts. We'll have to tack another canvas on the top to find out where that one lives. There. All right. But see, if you don't hit every bit of it, it doesn't matter because you have the black gesso back here. Let's go on the other side and Put a little tree over there too. There. If you haven't tried this black gesso, you should really try it. It is one of the most fantastic things. I know I talk about it all the time, but I really like this. It has made painting so much easier. There we go. And we just drop in the indication of a few little trees. Maybe there's another big one on this side. We don't want it left out. But once again, we're not worried about a lot of detail. It really doesn't matter because you can't see it against that dark color. But we'll take that brush, same brush, and go right through a little bit of the cad yellow. And immediately we have a nice dark green. And that's what we're looking for. And for that, we can come up in here and just put the indication of a little highlight here and there on some of these big evergreens that are looking out over that mountain. Darker as it works down. Yeah, there we are, a little bit back in here. Let's go back to this old big one. There he is. There he is. Darker. Till it gets almost to where you can't see it. We don't want this one left out. There. Right on down. There he goes. Same thing in here. Sometimes when you're putting these highlights on, it gets to be nice and it's fun, and you get carried away and cover up all your dark. Shoot, this would be just a super place, these trees for my little squirrels to live. I got to show you my little squirrels again. You know, one of the earlier series, I showed you these little rascals when they were tiny little babies. They looked like drowned rats. And here just recently, we turned them loose. And they moved far away from home. There's a big tree that hangs right over my back door. And they built a nest right in the tree that hangs over the back door. So every time somebody walks out, there they are. But aren't those the cutest little devils? That's two little boy squirrels. They're my friends. I really like these little rascals. Now we can come back in here and begin putting in all kinds of little grassy areas. Oh, I'll show you. Show you something that's fun. Take a little white, a little bit of the browns, both browns. Cut a little roll of paint off, and then we're going to see how delicate you can touch. Just barely touch, and sort of pull it down here and there. See it? Like that. Something like that. There we go. Just here and there. Here and there. And maybe over here on the other side, there's a little... It's because the black's there once again. All you got to do is just drop in the highlight. There, and let it get darker down here toward the base. Something like that. Then we'll come back and let's take the old 2-inch brush and let's have all these little grassy things that just sort of hang over here. There, they just sort of hang around. Like that. And go everywhere. There. If there's this much mist and water here, you're going to have a lot of ferns and normally and stuff like that. Very nice hangy down type things. And they're very easy to make with this brush. All you got to do is just sort of tap them. Let's go on the other side. And we'll do the same thing. We need some over here. And just let them sort of drip right off there. Right off there. There they go. Something about like that. There. But see, you just leave some of these little areas showing, and they look like rocks or big cliffs in there that are showing through. Now, let me grab my old knife again. Maybe in our world there lives another big rock right there. And that's all you have to do. The black gesso gives you all your dark colors automatically. There, maybe that comes right down. I tell you what, shoot, maybe that rascal just comes right on out here. I don't know, wherever. Let me grab a fan brush here. A little bit of the liquid white, a little bit of our thin color. Maybe right in here. There's a little watery fall right in there, like that. comes right down and splashes and carries on, and off it goes. And you can really get crazy. Maybe there's a stone lives right there. Take a little bit of our brown and white, put a little highlight on it. Then we go back in here, and here comes our water again. Choom, right over. Got to make those little noises. Choom. But you can just make all kinds of little things that are happening down here in our water, and then just sort of slide the brush around. And it's mixing with that color once again that's on the canvas, and it'll just make all these beautiful effects almost automatically. Something like so. Now we can go back and let's begin. Let's get crazy. Let's bring it right on out, like there's a big overhang here. Great big overhang. Take a little touch of our rock color. Maybe there's a little rock right there. Don't need much though. Don't need much. Because we'll bring this one right on through. See? And now you can tell there's a cliff there, but you didn't have to hardly do a thing. Sometimes it's nice just to tip the brush into a little blue and white and use that for highlight. Whew, isn't that gorgeous? I like to do that. Just put a little cool color on there. Just sort of surprises the senses. There we go. And begin filling all this in. Just tap it and work it. And as I mentioned earlier, the more you tap and work on this, the darker it'll become because it's picking up that color that's on the canvas. There. And you can do this till it's just smooth as velvet. It looks like silk. The more you tap it, the softer it becomes. There. And you have to make the decision. Maybe you want it a little rough or a little softer than we have it here. It's up to you, however you want it. There. Maybe let that hang down. Maybe it'll hang clean down into the water, over the water. You have to decide. Shoot, I think we better have a finished painting. Maybe we'll sign this one. Take a little bit of the paint thinner, some bright red. Let's sign it right up here in the bushes. Really hope you've enjoyed this one. If you have time, send us a picture when you try it. I'd love to see what you're doing. And from all of us here, I'd like to wish you happy painting, and God bless, my friend. Hi, welcome back. Certainly glad you could join us today. And today, let's do a fantastic little painting together. Tell you what, let's start out and have them run all the colors across the screen that you need to paint along with us. While they're doing that, let me show you what I've got going up here. I have my standard old pre-stretched canvas up here. And I've taken a foam brush and a little bit of black gesso, and I've just painted the bottom of this canvas basically with the black gesso and allowed it to dry completely. On top of that, I've added a little bit of liquid clear, and then I've put a mixture of midnight black, phthalo green, and a little bit of Van Dyke brown just to dull it down a little bit. And I've covered the entire black area with that. Up on the top here, I've just put a little bit of the liquid white as we normally do. So it's all ready, and so I think we'll do a fantastic little painting. Let's start out today with a small amount of the Indian yellow. A little bit of the Indian yellow. We don't need much. We'll just go up in here and just using little crisscross strokes, just put in maybe a little area about like that. And make it a little larger than you actually want it to be, because as we work on this, the other colors will eat up the yellow. It's quite weak when it's mixed with a liquid white like this. Make it a little tiny bit larger than you want it to be. Then without cleaning the brush, I'm going to add the least little touch of the bright red, not much. And I'm going to have some blue in this sky, I think. So I put a little bit of red right around the edges, and it acts as a barrier. It keeps the blue and the yellow from mixing together. That's really the only thing that we're doing here. You won't hardly see this when it's done. It's just a barrier, because you know, if we get that blue up against the yellow, we're going to have a bright, bright green sky. And I'm not looking for that in this particular painting. Sometimes we do, but not today. Not today. So this little bit of bright red, once again, acts as a barrier. There we go. And we'll just blend that together. Something like that. All right. Thought maybe today we'd do a painting that, well, let's just have some fun and see what happens. I think we'll have some nice trees like we have shapes here, and just all kinds of beautiful little things happening, and just let it go from there. There we go. Now then, I'm going to take a small amount of the phthalo blue. Very, very small amount. Doesn't take much. It's a strong color. It's a beautiful blue, though. Very bright, shiny blue. And we'll just fill in the sky, right down to that little reddish color. There. And then stop. Okay. Something about like that. Now, if you want to darken the edges, we'll tat a little bit of Prussian blue right on the edges and blend that in. And that way it gets darker and darker as it goes away from this light area. And it'll happen automatically for you by adding a little of that Prussian blue. And we can clean our brush. Just shake off the excess and beat the devil out of it. Now, in the bottom of that can that I scrubbed the brush, there's a coated wire screen down there that you scrub the brush against. That allows the solid material to settle to the bottom, and it keeps your paint thinner relatively clean. If you don't have that wire screen in there, all you do each time is just mix it all up, and pretty soon you have a nice mixture of mud in there. Now then, with a clean brush, let's just gently, gently blend all this together. So you can't tell where one color stops and the next color starts. There. Something about like that. See, that Prussian blue keeps that side up there very dark in comparison. Okay. Just knock off the excess paint there. And we can come right over here and blend this side a little bit. There we go. And now we have a nice shiny area with a little bit of color that just flows right up through there. Knock off that excess paint again, and very lightly, one hair and some air, just go across and take out all the brush strokes and bring it together. Something like that. All right. Now then, today let's just really have some fun. I'm going to show you a nice way to make a little tiny mountain that's very simple. Very, very simple. Let's use some Prussian blue. Prussian blue and alizarin crimson. I want this to be to the blue side. So we're pretty close to equal proportions because the blue is much, much stronger than the crimson. Many, many times stronger. Now, we'll cut off a little roll of paint like that. We don't want much color. Let's go. Come right up in here. We're going to put in a shape of a mountain here. And I'm really, really trying to push that right into the fabric. You can probably hear how hard we're scraping. Just get mean with it. Take out all your frustrations, all your hostilities right here. Just really, really try to push it right through the fabric there. It will stain the canvas and it will be there forever. Probably couldn't get it out if we wanted it out. Now with a clean and very dry brush, we want to grab this and begin pulling. There. I want to take out all of it that I can. Just act like you're trying to pull it right off the canvas. Get it all off there if possible. Because I want a very, very soft little mountain that lives far, far away back here. There. I'm just knocking off excess paint that I'm picking up. Now then, just begin blending the entire thing right over it. And just keep blending it until it gets as soft as you want it. Now, if you have scraped off all the paint, You can blend this to any degree of softness that you desire. Now take just the least little touch of titanium white on the brush, just tapping the corner into a little titanium white, and begin tapping in nice little misty areas here. Very soft little misty areas. I want this mountain to just sort of float back here. Very soft. Knock off the excess paint again. And just gently, gently, gently go over it. And you can keep doing this to get it as soft and as distant looking as you desire. So you make a decision. You make a decision when you do yours, where your mountain is, how soft it is. Or you can make it very distinct. It's up to you. I just want one that it just sort of hangs around back here in the mist, and nice quiet little mountain. It's not a loud mountain. Now I'm going to add to that same color, add a little bit more of the crimson. I want to go a little more to the reddish side of lavender this time, just so there's a little change in flavor. Okay, let me clean off the old knife. We'll use that same old brush, it's not too dirty. Add just a little bit of this color to it. And let's go up in here, and maybe we have some trees back here in the distance. I'm going to start out by just tapping in a basic, very basic idea of where the trees live. Just a very, very basic idea of where these trees live. I'm not looking for detail. All I'm doing is making fuzzy edges. Just little fuzzy edges. At the same time, it's picking up the liquid white that's on the canvas and is creating a mist down here. Can you see that misty area? It will happen automatically. Just sort of tap up and down, and you're just pulling a little tiny bit of that color right down. Maybe this goes, well, we'll just have it go all the way up here, because we can do anything in this world here that we want to do. I just decided these trees live all the way off the canvas. All the way off the canvas there. And just tap. And the more you tap, the more of the liquid white you'll pull down in here, and the more mist that you'll create. So you have to make a decision. How much mist do you want in your world? And we'll use that same color. Take a fan brush, load a little color into the bristles. Now then, we can go back, and here's where we begin putting the indication of a little detail in here. But you leave some of those little things that you tapped in with a 2-inch brush, so it looks like little trees that are farther back than these. And it creates another whole plane, another whole layer in your painting. There. And that's what we're looking for. These layers are what create the illusion of depth and distance in paintings. And to me, that's very, very desirable. I like paintings that have depth. A lot of times you see paintings that are very flat. They have no depth. And to me, once again, that's just my opinion, they're very, I don't want to say real unpleasant, but they bother me if they don't have a lot of depth in them. Because our world, the way I see it, has a lot of depth. And that's the way I like to see paintings. But once again, everybody has their own idea. And that's the way it should be. There we go. And here and there, I'm going to touch a little of the sap green, a little bit of cad yellow on that same brush. Not much. Not much. In fact, you might have, I guess you can see a little bit. I don't want much. I just want to, here and there and here, put the indication that you can make out a little green back in here. Not much yet. As we get into the foreground, then we'll begin doing things. Back here, we're just working with illusions. Just illusions. We can go back into that lavender color. And when you do yours, you do it the way you want to, though. I only want to show you how to make effects. What you make is totally and completely up to you. Completely. Now, I'll just take a clean, dry 2-inch brush and gently lift that. Gently lift it. Now then. You want to get crazy already? Tell you what, let's do. tell you what, let's have some fun. I'm going to take the little fan brush, number 3 fan brush, a little bit of liquid white and the least little touch of the titanium white. I'm just using that liquid white to thin the titanium white. Gotta thin it down, there we go. Now then, let's go up here. Maybe in our world there lives, right in here, we're going to touch and go, shoo. Way back in there is a tiny little waterfall. Don't make it too bright, too distinct, it's too far away, just the indication. Now when you do yours, if it comes out too bright, just very gently work over it, and that'll soften it because it'll pick up the color that's underneath, and it'll get darker and darker until finally it just goes totally away. All right, now we can go back to our 2-inch brush, and in our world, we're going to have a lot of mist down here that's created by that waterfall back in there, and all I've done is just barely touched with just the corner, the least little amount of the titanium white. Oh, I can't say that enough. The least little amount. Because against this black, it will show up so strong, it's unreal. Be very careful. Very careful. You can always add more. But sometimes the sun is going to take it off. So add just the tiniest bit initially. And then you can always go back and add a little more if you want to. Tiniest little bit. There we are, very gently, very gently. You can fluff it and bend it, just go over it. But isn't that a nice, easy, and effective way of making little misty areas down here? All those things just set in there. I lived in Alaska for about 12 years, and you see sights like this. They're absolutely gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. I always believed that God was having a good day when he made Alaska. Because some days, things just go better than other days. I think he was having a spectacular day when he made Alaska. Everything was working well for him. There. Okay, shoot. And that makes a very, very effective little background, very simply. Now then, let's get into the foreground here and have some fun. Let me move this lavender color we made over there somewhere. Let's just take black, midnight black. Cut off a little roll of paint. Let's go right up in here. Come right down in here. I want to make, maybe there's a nice cliff going to be right in there somewhere. Right in there. And I'm just sort of laying out in my mind where I think some of these, there comes one right there. See it come like that maybe. Something like that. I don't know where it's going to go. Just want to have a basic idea of what kind of things we'll have in here. There, and you know me. I love water. And if you had these nice cliffs there, chances are you'd have a little waterfall. So let's do that. I'm going to dip the brush into a little bit of the liquid clear. And then with that, we'll go into some white, a little titanium white, least little touch of phthalo blue and the phthalo green. Least little touch. Takes very, very little. I don't want a lot of bright color here. In fact, I might add a little black just to dull it. Ooh, that's what I'm looking for right there. It has a blue and greenish hint to it, but it's mostly gray. All right, let's go up here. Make a big decision. Maybe our waterfall is right here, comes over and goes pew. And if you make that stroke quickly, you will find that it works better than trying to go real slow into it. Make it quickly. Watch here, you can make one there. Be right back. Now, take a little touch of the black on the knife. Maybe there's a stone lives right in there. Maybe a little stone. And we'll take a little white, a little black, a little that lavender colored, make sort of a grayish lavender highlight, and we'll just drop a little highlight right there on that stone. There. All right. Now then, a little more of that color, same color. And the waterfall is on this side too, see? And now you have a little stone that lives up there in the middle of the waterfall, and he gets to watch all this beautiful water just fall right over in there. Something like that. There. All right. And we'll take a 2-inch brush, grab the bottom, and lift upward. That'll blend it all together. And I want it to be darker down here, because in my mind, there would not be as much light striking down here. So this will calm it down, and the liquid clear that's under there will begin mixing with it, and it'll all come together. Now then let's take, we decided where our cliffs were. Now let's bring them right out here in front of our waterfall. See? But decide where your cliffs are, put your water in, and then put the waterfall in front of the cliff. Make that old jagged rock. Old jagged one. There. Tell you what, while I'm doing this, every year our little newsletter has an art contest where we get people to send in entries, and I'd like to share with you this year's winners, because I'm so proud of what these people have done. It's absolutely fantastic. But can you believe some of these paintings that are being done all over the United States? And a lot of them are done strictly from just watching the show. Just from watching the show here. And there you see my young friend Earl Glenn Russell. That little rascal can paint, you just can't believe. And he's about 10 years old now. I had the opportunity to meet him when I was in Missouri. But he continually amazes me at some of his ideas. Do you see that silhouette he made of his mother's a photographer, and she took a picture of him, and they cut out a silhouette, and he painted a picture in it. And that's something you might want to try. It makes a very unique and wonderful gift. And Earl, thanks for that idea and for sharing it with people all over the country. I'm going to take a little black, a little white, a little of the dark sienna, mix them together so they're marbled. Cut off a tiny little roll of paint. And let's go up in here and begin thinking about a little color laying up here on top of this. You have to make some big decisions, though, about your cliffs. Where do they live? Maybe they come like that. We don't know. Don't know that we even care. There. Just put those little rascals in there. Something like so. And with almost no color, just grab it and sort of pull down. There's just the least little touch of color on the knife. Almost nothing. You want to keep it dark under there. Keep it dark. See there how that cliff just jumps right out at you? Something like that. That's just black, a little white, a little dark sienna. But it should be a very nice gray color. Very nice grayish color. Let's go back to our black. Maybe we have a projection that comes out here. Maybe it comes all the way over, like that. There. These are some rough old cliffs. There we go. Bring a little highlight down. Like that. Least little touch downward. Not much though, just a tiny little bit. Tiniest little bit. There. And. There, see? Just sort of let these things happen. Just let them happen. Make layer after layer wherever you want them. There we go. But see, you don't have to put anything there. That black it just makes all your little dark areas for you automatically. Automatically. Wasn't there some fantastic paintings in that? It's unbelievable what some of the letters I get in some of the paintings that I see. We should have an award for the most improved painter, because I have a very, very special friend that he lives in Louisiana, a young fellow that's been painting, and his painting has improved so much. And his name is Mark. And he has really come a long way. And he's a very special friend. And we should mention that he also gave us a painting that was, I've watched him since he first started painting, and his painting has improved so much. It's nice to see that. Let's take some black. Let's go back in here and grab some of that phthalo green, a little crimson, some brown. just dark colors. We'll put some Prussian blue in there too. What the heck? All right. Back to my fan brush. We need some nice evergreens up in here. Maybe in our world, yep, we're going to have a big evergreen that lives right there. And today I'm going to push upward. Push him upward. There. And we'll just put in a basic shape here, and then we'll come back and we'll put a few little highlights on him so he stands out a little better. All we're looking for right now is a very basic little shape, something like that. We better have one on the other side too. I don't want it left out. Right there. Push upward. Start with the corner of the brush and just push upward like that. Upward, upward, upward. There we go. Maybe, yeah, what the heck, a little friend lives right there. But push upward. This makes very nice evergreens. In some parts of the country, the evergreens seem to grow with limbs that sort of protrude upward. In other parts of the country, they sort of go downward. Just depends on where you're from and what you're used to seeing. And we try to show you different ways of doing them, and you pick the way you like. A little bit of yellow added to that same color will make a beautiful green, and then we can come back in here and put in a few details. I don't want this to be too bright, just enough so that it stands out good. You can see that rascal in there. There we go. Darker, darker toward the base. Let's do this one on the right over here. We don't want him left out. Something like that. There. Now then, let's go back to our old 2-inch brush. Create a little misty area right down in there. Takes very little white. And we'll just let that mist float all up around these big cliffs. We don't know where it goes. Somewhere like that. A little more of the white. Maybe the water comes, there it is. Right out, there it is. We'll just go right on out like that. Take a little white and just pull it straight down. And then very gently, just go across. And we have instant water. Now then, I'll just use that same old brush and go into little yellow, little sap green, yellow ochre, Indian yellow. Here and there I'll touch a little bit of the bright red. Yep, I think there's a little grassy thing that lives right there. Just a little grassy thing. There we go. There. See there? All right. Maybe I'm going to get the little small round brush. Maybe we have a happy little tree. Yep. Since we have the dark in there, all we need is highlight, basically. See that little tree? There he comes. There he comes. This little round brush just does beautiful little details like that. A little more color. Maybe there's another little bush. And he lives right in there. Wherever you think a little bush should live, that's where you ought to be. There's another one. Take a little bit more of that titanium white, come right in here, and we'll put the least little touch of color right in there. Just pull straight down with the white though, and then go across. There. Let's take the old liner brush, a little bit of white. I want to make a little tree that lives right here. Just a little happy tree right there. Right there. Back to our little round brush. Let's put a few little highlights on him. Don't want too many, just a few. Just a few. And maybe over here on this side, you can see a little grassy area. This is where we were standing when we saw this scene. Right there. A few little bushes. We'll just use a fan brush, pop in a few little bushes over here on this side. Push upward. Just a couple little things like that. And a little touch of the liquid white. We'll put in a little shoreline, and then we about have a finished painting. But isn't that a nice little painting? And it's easy to do. Give it a try and let me know how it works for you. I think you'll really enjoy it. You could even put a few little rocks in the water and things like that to bring out detail. Until next time, from all of us here, happy painting, and God bless, my friend. Hi, welcome back. Certainly glad you could join us today, because today is the last show of the 23rd series. Can you believe that? 23 series. That's almost 300 half-hour shows. So I thought today we'd do a fantastic little winter scene that I think you'll enjoy. Let's start out and have them run all the colors across the screen that you need to paint along with us. And as usual, they'll come across right there. All right, come on up here and let me show you what I've got done. Today I have my standard old pre-stretched canvas, and I've cut out a little contact paper oval and stuck on it. I like those little ovals, so I thought we'd do one of those, and I've covered the whole thing with a thin, even coat of liquid white, so it's all ready to go. So let's just do a very happy little scene today. Since this is the last show, we'll do a happy little painting. We'll start with a little alizarin crimson, just a very small amount. Don't need much. We don't want to set this sky on fire. All we want to do is just put a very nice little pinkish glow in there. Making little crisscross strokes, just little X's. Something about like that. That's all there is to it. There, maybe I'll add just a little more. A little bit more. There. Crimson's not a very strong color, so if there's any in here that you don't like, it's very easy just to cover it up. I'll tell you what, let's have a little water in this one. Maybe we'll put a little crimson down here where there'll be some water. There. And let's go in here, and maybe I'll put some little clouds in there. We'll take some crimson, reach over here, and let's get a little touch of the phthalo blue, just a little, and we'll just mix them on the brush. Something like so. Be right back. Don't go away. There. A little bit more, maybe. There we go. We're making sort of a nice pinkish lavender color. There. Let's go right up in here. Maybe in our world, our little cloud, it just sort of floats along. You could do this with a fan brush or whatever brush. I'm just using this one because it was handy, already had some color on it, and I'm lazy. There we are. Very gently. Just put in a basic little shape. We'll come back with a clean brush now and blend that. All we're looking for, just a very basic little shape. You can put a little stringy things here and there on them if you want them. Whatever. Clouds are very free. Just sort of let them float around. Now, a good clean dry brush. I have several of each brush going. I'm just going to blend that out. Blend it, and then very lightly, just go over the entire thing using long horizontal strokes. And that easy, we can create the illusion of a little cloud. See how you can I want to soften the edges. All we're doing is just bringing them together. Just like that. Nothing to it. Now, let's have another little cloud, and we'll make it darker. So I'll add a little Prussian blue, a little black. Then I'll go right over here to the crimson again. And back to my black and blue, and back to crimson. I want this one quite a bit darker. Let's go up here. Now then, I have to decide where it lives. There it is. Maybe there's a little arm. It hangs right out here like that. I don't know. Just sort of let them happen. And I'm just using the corner of the brush and just sort of winding it up. Little tiny circles. Tiny little circles. There we are. There we are. So I say this is the last show of this series. And it's always sort of sad when we get to the last show. But we're not going for long. We've already got the next series planned, and we'll be back with you if you'll have us. The only reason we stay on television is because you allow it. So if you like the shows, and you want to see more of them, or you want to see some of the old ones again, because there's nearly 300 of them. In fact, I think there is 300 of them. Give your local station a call. Let them know. That's the only way they know what you want to see. Just a clean brush. And once again, we'll just sort of blend that out like that. Let all those little things just happen. There we go. Very simple little sky. Okay, let's have some fun today. Let's make us a little mountain. What the heck? I like mountains. We'll take some black, alizarin crimson, a little bit of the Prussian blue, maybe even a little bit of Van Dyke brown. There. Pull it out as flat as you can get it, then cut across and get our little roll of paint. It lives right out there on the edge of the knife. And maybe our mountain, maybe we'll have a mountain, yes we will, right there. See? Really push that color right into the fabric. Get tough with it. This is where you take out all your frustrations, hostilities, and you don't hurt a thing. In fact, it's better if you get a little mean with it here. There we go. Something like that. I don't know. You make your mountain any shape that you want it. You just sort of let it go. Let it go. Mountains are different in different parts of the country, so you paint them however they look right to you. There we are. And all we're worried about is this nice top edge up here. We could care less what's happening below. We don't even concern ourselves with that. Nice, clean, dry brush. We grab it firmly, really grab it, and begin pulling it out. I want it to be very soft at the bottom, because if you can see the entire mountain, it's always more distinct at the top than it is at the bottom. Because at the bottom we have mist, and now we have wonderful pollution that breaks up the light, just breaks it up and diffuses it. And that's what creates that illusion of mist down here. There we go, something like so. You can see how soft the base of that mountain is. And if everything works just right, you have a little touch of that pink down in there. And people will just go crazy trying to figure out how you did it. And that's our secret. Shh, don't tell them. Don't tell them. Now, let's put a few little highlights on there. We'll use some of the titanium white. I want to pull it out very flat, just as flat as I can get it. And I want a tiny little roll of paint, very little on the knife. Okay? Now these back here, I want to make look like they're farther away. So I'm going to use very, very little paint on them. Very little. I want almost no highlight on them. Too far away. Too far away. We'll give him a little friend right there. Once again, almost no paint. And this one. This one, this one. We'll give him some. And I'm really not looking for detail back here. I'm gonna blend these out, push them far away. Something maybe about like so. I'm gonna mix up a little blue and white. Maybe put a little black in there to dull it. Don't want it too bright back there. And put just a hint of shadow. Don't want much. Don't want much. Too far away to see detail. Too far away to see much detail. There. All right. Let me get an old 2-inch brush. It's nice and dry and clean. And tap this. Be very sure that you follow the angles here, though. Just tap it, tap it, tap it. The more you tap it, the softer it'll become. Then lift gently upward. 2 hairs and some air, but very gently. So it just sort of disappears back here in the mist. But it's very soft and quiet. All right. Now this one, this old mountain. There. He's in the foreground. He's very distinct. Now, no pressure. Absolutely no pressure. There. I think you've heard me say over and over, one of the ways when I was teaching my son Steve to paint, that I got across to him how soft this was. I told him just to pretend that his hand was a whisper, and it floated right across the mountain with no pressure. And now he may very well be the best mountain painter in this technique in the whole country, because he certainly cannot paint me when it comes to mountains. Whew. And he travels all over and teaches. So maybe you'll get to meet him. He does a lot of demonstrations and stuff. You do, go by and hassle him a little bit and tell him I sent you. He needs to be hassled sometime. There. This is just a little blue, white, touch of black in it to dull it. Okay, let me wipe off the old knife. And we'll take a little bit of that. And let's put a few little shadows back in here. There's one. Now let's push that one back. Come right on down here. Go distinctly through it. And immediately, you just pushed it back into the distance. One right there. Did you ever believe you had that much power that you could push mountains around? Shoot, when I go home, the only thing I can push around is a garbage cart. There. And I get to do that every Wednesday, come rain or shine. There. That's my job. Garbage sits there and waits on me till I come home. And I don't let it down. I always try to get it out. There. I decided maybe I want to change that a little. Give it a little more right out there. Because it's pretty. There. Just let it go. Let it go. There. See? Maybe it comes right on out like that. Something like that. I don't know. Wherever you'd like to have it, that's where you should put it. And we'll tap this one, following those angles. Once again, follow those angles. Most important. I want to create the illusion of mist down at the base of this mountain. Over here, follow these angles. Doesn't matter which side you're on, always follow the angles though. Then lift upward. That takes out the little tap mark, sort of brings it all together. I just tapped into a little of that shadow color. Maybe we'll have just a little doer that comes out here. Makes it look like another plane in the mountain. Sort of sneaky, huh? There. Beat the brush, knock off excess paint. Then we can blend that out. A lot of times all you have to do is just beat the brush very firmly and it removes the paint enough that you don't have to clean it. And if you're like me, I'm very lazy. I look for easy ways to do things. Now then, let's take a little bit of that. Oh, we got a little dirty brush here. We got a little bit of Prussian blue, a little crimson. Just sort of mix them together. Let's go down here and let's put the indication of a little water down in here. We'll just sort of pull that in like that. And from this side, let me wash the old brush there. Get him cleaned up. This really is the fun part of this. Shake it off. And then just cover the whole studio. Now then, very lightly, we just go all the way across and bring all this together. Just sort of bring it together. There. Maybe in our world back here, there's some little footy hills. Let me mix up a little color here. I'm going to take a little white, some of that mountain color. So it's basically a gray, sort of a bluish gray color is what I'm looking for. Add a little more of the phthalo blue in there. Or the Prussian, doesn't make any difference for that. Clean off the knife. Okay, now just use the same old dirty brush, it doesn't matter. Just tap some color right into the brush. Give it a little push. That little ridge of paint's what we're looking for there. Now, decide where your little footy hills live. Maybe in my world, I think there's one or two right in here. Just like so. There they are. Just use the corner of the brush and put in some very basic little shapes. Very basic. There. See there? That's all there is to it. Now, very lightly, lift upward. Upward. Very, very short little strokes, though. Don't make big strokes like that, because this represents little trees that are, they're a long way off. Not 1,000,000 miles, but almost. Almost. Maybe there's some more right in here. But you separate them by leaving a tiny little light area in there. And then they'll just separate right apart. And you can put as many layers as you want, just doing something like that. Lift, lift, upward. leopard, maybe there's even another layer. Who knows? In your world, you put as many layers of little foothills as you want, or as few. Maybe you don't even want any foothills. It's totally and completely up to you. Lift up. I can. Now, let's take same color and pull downward. Just pull it downward. Straight down, though. It's important to come straight down. There. Now then, take a clean brush. Pull that down a little more, just to smooth it out good, and come straight across. Like that. And we have instant reflections. That easy. That easy. And we take our knife, take a little bit of the liquid white. Maybe I'll add the least little touch of pinkish hue into it. A little touch of crimson. Not much, though. Just enough to flavor it. Cut across, get our little roll of paint. And we can go right up in here. And then let's just begin cutting in a little waterline. Push very hard. Act like you're trying to cut a hole right in the canvas. You're not going to hurt this canvas, I don't think. Sure as I say you won't, somebody will tell me they did. But normally, you're not going to hurt it. It's very tough, very strong. Guess you could take a running start and hit it with a knife and put a hole through it. But other than that, it's pretty difficult. Pretty difficult. There. And maybe we'll just let that come right on over. I don't know, wherever. Maybe there's even a little doer out here in the water. Sometimes it's nice to have a little thing like that. All right. Tell you what. Those little footy hills are so much fun to make. Let's make another one. Let's make another one. There. Just push the brush, though. Load a little color right in there. I want this one to be a little darker now than the one in the back. And maybe it comes from up here somewhere. Who knows? It comes right on down and out into the water. But this will help create an illusion that goes way back and hides back here in the background somewhere. Isn't that neat? There's a lot of depth in your painting, and you've done very little. Done very little. Because painting should not always just be hard work. It should be fun. And we really try to make it fun here. We try to make it enjoyable. For many years, Annette and I traveled all over the country teaching. And during those periods, we begin to realize exactly how much fun it could be, because we met so many people, and people were happy. They were just amazed at the results of what they were doing. People who never believed they could paint. And that may be the true joy of painting, is when you share it with other people. I really believe that's the true joy. Whether you teach them to paint, or you give paintings to them as gifts, or your personality just improves because you paint. Because sometimes it makes your personality a little better. If you're in a better mood and you've accomplished something, you feel better. And the people who love you then, they're a little happier to be around you. So even that can be a joy of painting. All right, just using a little bit of that liquid white still. Just putting in just a happy little water line there. We don't know where that goes. We can get carried away and just go everywhere with it. Now then, maybe find a clean brush. Maybe down here in the foreground there's a little snow. Why not? And we can start out here. We'll use the old 2-inch brush, a little bit of the titanium white. Just load a little paint on there and make an instant decision. Where's your snow live? Maybe in our world, it's right there. Just pull in a little bit of snow. See there? That's basically all there is initially. Then I'm going to take a 1-inch brush, and we'll go right through some of that dark color, Prussian blue, some crimson. Put a nice dark color. Pull that brush in one direction, like that. And we go up here. And let's have some little bushes that live out here on this. Just push upward with the brush. Take that rounded side toward the top and just push upward. And you can make all these happy little bushes. Maybe we'll have a whole line of bushes. Who cares? When you do it, you decide. Make them anywhere you want them. We just have a whole line of little bushes that live all the way across here. Now then, maybe Jack Frost has touched these little bushes and they've got some snow on them. So we'll dip the 1-inch brush into the liquid white. Then I'll go through titanium white. Be right back. Let me get a touch, just the least little touch of the alizarin crimson. I want to just warm it up a little. Pull it in one direction. Load a lot of color into the bristles. A lot of color. All right, let's go up here. Now, with our rounded corner up again, just push, and you can make little bushes, little snow-covered bushes here that look like lace. They're so gorgeous. There. But these are just fantastic. But don't kill all your dark. Once again, this starts working and it feels good and you get carried away and you can kill all that dark in a heartbeat. And then you have no depth in your little bushes. So you can look back over the top of those bushes and see little things behind it. It's where the little bunny rabbit hides. He lives back in there. Stays warm because it gets cold out here. Whew. Really gets cold out here. Okay, then we can take the brush that had the white on it and just sort of clean up the edges. Just a little, here and there. Sometimes you can grab a little of that color. Now if you want to make it look like the snow's really thick, take your knife, a little roll of paint, and just sort of drag it across like you did on the mountains up here. Just drag it so the paint breaks. Just so it breaks a little tiny bit, just enough so it shows. See there? And it really makes it look like there's depth to that snow. It's not just flat. Not just flat. And let's see here. We can take the knife, just scratch in a little stick and twig here and there. Kind of have some little sticks to hold all this together. Shoot, those little rascals will get away. Got to have a skeleton in there. Let's get crazy. You know me and my big trees. Let's take some Van Dyke and a little dark sienna mixed together. Pull it out very flat. Cut off our little roll of paint right out there on the edge. And then make a big decision. Maybe we'll have a tree that lives right here. This is your bravery test. Because you go right over your mountain, the sky, everything. Just like so. There. This is your bravery test. This will check you out. After you work so hard on your painting, come along here and stick a big old tree trunk in there. All right. Let's do 2 then. If you made it through the first one, this one ought to be easy. There. And I like to just put them in with dark brown first. Dark sienna and Van Dyke. And then come back with a little bit of titanium white, small roll of paint, and touch, and just barely give it a little pull, little right there on the edge. It makes it look like a little birch tree that lives out here. I have two old crows that live with me. I mean real crows. I'm not. And both of them have been shot. Now they had left to sit out here. Somebody shot both of them. Not at the same time. But they live in a big cage behind my house, and I take care of them and take them food every day. And they live pretty good. They've got sort of used to their situation. And the Audubon Society told me they could live up to 20 years in captivity, so I think this is going to be a long relationship. All right, a little bit of paint thinner, a little bit of Van Dyke brown and dark sienna. I want to put an indication here and there of a few little branches on this old tree. Just here and there. Just like so. There. Now if your paint does not flow, add a little more of the paint thinner to it, because the thin paint will slide right over the top of this thicker paint. As I say, this really is your bravery test to jump up here in the sky and start putting all these little things in. But I know you can do it. I know you can do it, because you can do anything that you believe you can do. And if I believe you can do it, you certainly know you can. There, one tree. This one's in the front, so we'll do him last. Give him some little arms that stick up in the sky. As I say, that's for my crow to sit on. There. Of course, we'll have to get an elevator to get him up there. Neither one of them can fly anymore. There we go. But they don't know that. They still try. All right. And maybe a little arm right there. Wherever. And you can put all kind of little gnarly things that have been broken off, and just makes it look a little more realistic. And when you have a lot of time, you can really play with this. Put little doers everywhere. Maybe there's a little grassy thing here and there. Whatever. I think it's time for the moment of truth here. So let's bring the camera right up here. Let's take the contact paper off. See what we have. Isn't that fantastic? I sort of fooled you. I didn't tell you about the black on there. But try this one. You'll really like it. I think we'll sign this one. Call it finished. I hope you've enjoyed this painting and this series. If you have, let your TV station know. And until next time, I'd like to wish you happy painting, and God bless, my friend.